Shut up, fool!
I wasn't calling Frank Turek a fool there. I wasn't. That was Mr. T. And he was just saying that in general, not to be specific. Just because I played one right after the other doesn't mean anything. Well, look at this. See, if you come to my poker nights, you tend to get faster and smarter and more loyal. Nick, poker man, 10,000 Pine Points to you. Our token female, Erica Lewis at Poker Nights. She is here second place, so close. 5,000 Pine Points to you. Welcome. And Jax12, yo, I don't think you play poker with us, but good job. 1,000 Pine Points to you. David Chamberlain is the biggest loser here today. Today, he came here fourth. If I could vote you off the island, I would. Because you're nothing but trouble. My guess is, I seriously, no joke, I was just about to take a nap, and then I saw this, and I'm going, do I listen to this? Cam, Joe, Lucas, and Alex openly discuss Christianity. How much you want to bet that that's not true? How much you want to bet they're going to openly discuss philosophical ideas? Like, when I hear discuss Christianity, I'm thinking, like, discuss Paul, discuss the Gospels, discuss the Old Testament even, discuss the nuances of the book of Revelation, discuss pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, whatever trib, discuss grace, discuss Calvinism, non-Calvinism, Protestants, Catholics. Maybe they will. Maybe I'll be shocked. But I bet you they won't. I bet you these guys don't even know what they're talking about with Christianity because they're not an expert like I am. You have to go past the first 4 minutes of ads. Well, right now I have it at 2 minutes in. You're far more excited with getting Pine Points than this? Well, we'll see. Let's just get right into it.
Time off, you know? What do you want from me? I've got like an hour long your video with Cameron to get through and respond to as well. There's too many people coming at me, ops in all directions. I saw some people in the live chat saying that my audio was a bit low, by the way. I've just increased the gain ever so slightly. But
by the way, it would be nice if we could get more viewers than them. It's going to be hard because an atheist, Alex, is in there. But if we can get more atheists watching the mirror than the live with my pithy commentary, I tell you, that brings pain and suffering to Cameron. Now, I know I've said in the past that my standard of morality is well-being and unnecessary suffering, but in this case, that's an exception. Okay, we put that standard of morality on the shelf here today, and we cause pain and suffering by having more viewers than capturing Christianity. Can we do it? Wake up the neighbors. Wake up your kids. Phone your grandpa right now and say, hey, watch PineCreek.
Where to start? Yeah, so anyway, I grew up in a pretty conservative, pretty devout. I know some people say devout, but I'm not Canadian, so I'm saying devout. A lot of people... well, anyway, I grew up in a devout Christian home, and what that means is that I went to a private Christian school, both for primary and secondary education.
Me too. I went to private Christian school.
That is grade school and high school. And so I had basically theology classes every single day. So naturally, that kind of cultivated an interest in philosophy of religion and things like that. Now, I've also always been just, really interested in ideas and arguments.
No rating today.
In fourth grade or whatever, I got my little iPod Touch or whatever it is. And, they had some pretty cool games. There's like Doodle Jump on there. So I would play Doodle Jump. You've also got,
I just downloaded Doodle Jump too.
Yes.
Is it too loud?
Birds. I played Angry Birds. There's also this ice cream game where
let me know if it's too loud.
And you had to catch it and balance it. It was super fun. And you weren't supposed to catch the toads or other sorts of things that fell down.
I don't care about any of this. Linguisti asks, raid him again? No. We're not going to be like the Russians. Linguisti, we're not going to be like the Russians and raid another sovereign territory. I feel bad about last time. Although we didn't drop any bombs, we didn't hurt anybody, it gave them a sense of false hope. And I don't want to do that.
Really quality conversations. They were not even tribalistic. I don't know, but I found some really quality forums. And yeah, I just discussed with people, and it would go on for days and days, paragraphs upon paragraphs upon paragraphs, and it was super fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I was always sort of debating from an early age, and then as I got into 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade, I started learning about evolution.
Oh, I thought he said once I started getting into sex, but he said 6.
So we learned evolution, and we actually watched the Ken Ham versus Bill Nye debate, and we had to like write about it and talk about it and talk about how that interacts with Genesis and so on. It was super fun, super cool. And anyway, so I kind of got into that sort of debate between evolution and creationism. And then during 9th grade,
he kind of looks like a pterodactyl when he's describing his life story.
present in the evolutionary process, so
or T-Rex.
Hundreds of millions of years, we have non-human animals just ripping each other to shreds, and that really kind of that tugged on me, right? So that I started getting into the work of Paul Draper, Jeff Lauder, The Secular Outpost, Justin Schieber from Real Atheology.
What age were you at?
This is about 9th grade, so just
Okay.
had 6, so 15.
14? 15.
So yeah, I started like looking into these sorts of things and email.
Jim Bob is not banned from the live stream chat, I don't think. Is he? I blocked him in comments because he started getting really nasty towards other people, right? I tell you, I did a number on Jim Bob, I guess, because he's mad at me, I think. And he's lashing out. He just needs a hug, guys. He needs an atheist hug.
Further, and I got into the work of Proust and Rasmussen, and just as Kant said that Hume awakened him from his dogmatic slumbers, Alexander Proust awakened me from my dogmatic metaphysical naturalist slumbers. So
yeah, wake me when they start talking about Christianity. I enjoyed your SE channel the other day. Oh, you mean when I was on the Street Epistemology channel, and those guys roasted me bad on how I handled Jim Bob. I did everything wrong, and I went on there, not everything wrong, but a lot of things wrong. And I went on there later and said, yeah, you're right, but it was fun. And he knew what he was getting into. And we got something accomplished. What we accomplished was that he became a Christian because his wife was.
For me, I find that everyone hates me. Well, hates me in the sense of I ruffle everyone's feathers. So I found that it's actually much more difficult because you have to stand your ground against like all sides, just flinging stuff at you. So I found that it's quite difficult, but and because I take stances on for pretty much any particular argument, I take a stance on whether or not it provides some evidence or no evidence, or whether it's good or bad. And so usually I stake a
yeah, I'll find that link so you can watch it.
It's just about equal with other people, but I do get a lot of stuff from both sides.
Okay, another thing is like, where are you currently at? Like on your credence scale of whether on the proposition God exists, where are you, like, if you could precisify?
See, like, look at this. The title is Openly Discuss Christianity, and they're saying, what's your credence on God exists?
Isn't that a term? I think it is.
Yes.
Precisify. If you could give me a precise number, as precise as you can, where would you say you're at? Is it exact? It can't be exact 50 or 0.5.
Right. So for me, I used to assign more precise credences, but reading the literature a little bit more and delving into like credences and beliefs and how they relate to one another, I start now to think it's kind of like maybe indeterminate, or my evidence is kind of like just on either side is incommensurable with one another. So I don't really assign a precise credence at this point, just because of how complex my evidence base on either side is. Now, which way would I say it leans toward? I don't know. I mean, I guess if I were forced to choose, there's this debate about protheism and anti-theism, and that is the debate between what difference would God make in terms of making the world or making things overall better? That's a really interesting question, and I fall on the protheism side, so I think God's existence.
Did I miss something? Someone just said Alex just farted. No, he would never do that on a live stream.
Were God not to exist. So if I were forced, I'd probably...
But some of my poker players have done it when we're live playing poker. That's very rude. I do not condone farting in my administration.
Then I'm like really curious to hear what Alex thinks about that.
Well, I mean, there was a lot said there. I agree.
Just the last part.
I would probably
protheism
about the kind of the usefulness of
yeah.
religion or its beneficial quality. I used to quite squarely fall within the camp of thinking that religion was in general a harm. I think that may be still true in that the manifestation of religion as it currently exists popularly on the planet is probably more harmful than it is good. But given the choice between a kind of, let's say, ideally religious one that there was kind of a religious doctrine that...
Yeah, I should do a poll here. Is religion more harmful than good? Because there's no doubt religion's done good in the world, yes? Like even Aaron Raw has to say that, right? Let's see, online poll. I better pause it because I'm sure Alex is saying something amazing, I guess. Online poll. But the thing is, it has to be a scale, right? No, I could say net. What poll maker did I usually use? Anyhow, Alex, you talk for us.
I hate to be unoriginal, but I'm quite heavily influenced by the views of Dostoevsky on that matter. There's often a confusion between, I think, the idea of an atheist being incapable of living a good life. I think the point of Crime and Punishment is to say that even as an atheist, your conscience will still reproach you. You're not going to be able to fully commit to what a Christian might describe as atheistic nihilism. This idea that, well, everything is permitted, although that comes from the brothers Karamazov instead. And if you're an atheist, you can just do what you like. It's like, well, you haven't taken into account your conscience. Whereas I do think it's true that ideally, it's a good idea, it's beneficial to have some form of absolute grounding for the ethical principles that we live by. But I can't quite go as far as Dostoevsky, who himself once said in a letter to, I can't remember whom, but he said that if somebody could show to him that all of the facts were outside of Jesus, that religion were false, that all of the truths of the matter pointed towards atheism, he'd rather throw himself.
Okay, here's the poll. I'll pin it for now. Is religion a net good? So for those of you from Alabama, net means like, yeah, there's good stuff and yeah, there's bad stuff. But if you put them on a scale, which one would win? More good than bad or more bad than good? It's sort of like a Muslim poll here, because that's how Allah works, right? More good, more bad.
Upon Jesus and reject the facts than the other way around. I think this is actually the point of at least the brothers Karamazov. The most famous passage from that book is that of the Grand Inquisitor, where Ivan recounts the story of Jesus appearing to the Grand Inquisitor, and the Grand Inquisitor essentially criticizing Jesus, giving him this essentially a rationalistic critique of Christianity or theism more broadly, and saying that intellectually speaking, it seems very troublesome. The idea of free will, the idea of suffering, these kinds of things. And Jesus's response in the story is not to offer a rebuttal, but rather to stand up, walk over to the Grand Inquisitor and kiss him. And that's the matter settled. Now, Ivan is recounting the story to Alyosha, who in the novel, Ivan's kind of the atheistic character. Alyosha is the religious character.
Like, what's this all about? Am I the only one who's bored from all this? And when are they going to start talking about Christianity?
Now, after Ivan recounts this story, itself a kind of opening of the discussion about theism and an intellectualization of the subject, and that's what Ivan's character is. He's an intellectual. Alyosha responds in turn by going over to his brother and kissing him. And then they leave each other and resolve never to speak again, or never to see each other again, or say that they're going to stay apart from each other. Now, the way that I interpret this is the idea that, well, look, there is this intellectual critique of religion that exists, that is quite plausible. That is, on intellectual grounds, the kind of truth claims of something like Christianity are troublesome. And if you spend enough time thinking about it, you'll at least not be as certain as you were before. But Dostoevsky appears to think that the appropriate response to that is not to offer an intellectual argument in response, but simply to kiss the matter away. That is, it's more of a feeling, it's more about meaning than it is about intellectualism. And I think that's how he defends his Christianity, in saying, and he makes it more explicit in that letter by saying that that's essentially what he does. If somebody makes an argument, as good as that argument is, he would much rather just reject it on grounds of religion being too important to him.
I should have made the poll say something like atheist yes, atheist no. It's a push for it. Because I'm sure the thing is, this is a hard question even for Christians to answer, because the question is religion a net good? And they have to think about, well, okay, I know my religion's true, but we've got all these false religions out there doing harm. So I bet you even Christians are going to say no.
Which I'll leave it open to you.
No, I guess the only thing I would comment here, I can certainly identify with what Alex just shared. You'd rather go with what is true than with what feels right or what feels most comfortable or what you've been taught and, is therefore hardest to give up. I think, and I think I've talked about this on your channel before, Cameron. One of the things, when it comes to the problem of evil and to the problem of suffering, one of the ways in which I believe Christianity offers a very powerful answer. And this is, well, it's not necessarily like an intellectual answer, but the one which I would call a personal or an existential one, maybe, in the following sense. I believe that, you know, the problem of evil is not just a philosophical issue that people like to talk about, although it is that as well. It is a matter.
Okay, we're now, we're almost 30 minutes in. Still no talk about Christianity.
Or is responsible for offering a theodicy that is plausible. But then oftentimes I believe that people, or I think most of the times, people raise the question of evil from a personal experience, or again, from an existential angle. You know, talk about the Ukrainians, you know, that are suffering war, other people that suffer hunger and whatnot. And so the question of, well, why is there suffering? Why do I have to experience this stuff if there is supposedly a God?
Why is there suffering? Because God created. Done.
Personal experience. And then I believe that, you know, ultimately what people are looking for when they go through suffering is not necessarily, and I think this is interesting, and I might be wrong, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. I believe that ultimately people need not like good responses or intellectual information as to why they go through suffering, as much as they need empathy and community or fellowship in suffering.
Yeah, and that can be done in any religion. It can even be done through human secular humanism. No Christianity needed.
This stuff is happening to you, but what you need is someone who like sits there with you, cries with you, listens to you, and who can tell you, well, I understand the pain that you're going through, or at least I'm trying as much as I can.
Yeah, and just to fair warning, if you're suffering, you know, I can sometimes be good at, you know, holding you in my arms and giving you a stroke behind the head, but most of the time, I'm not your guy.
You know, in the person of Jesus, he kind of lived and walked in the shoes.
Oh, Jesus is mentioned.
Being, and ultimately experienced the ultimate suffering anyone can experience, which is death. And so again,
No, the ultimate suffering is not death. The ultimate suffering is suffering. Like the crucifixion is the suffering. The death is easy. Anybody can die. But who can live through suffering? That's tougher, right? I guess I might not have a choice, but yes, Christianity is a religion where God caused, in his plan, suffering on himself to save the world from a plan that he himself, before the creation of the universe, put in place. I'm trying to make the meme a little different because I know Christians hate it. Like, God came to kill himself to pay for the sins that he himself requires payment for. Or is it Satan who needs the money? I don't know.
I completely understand that this maybe this reinforces the point that Alex was critiquing in the sense that, well, it just sounds nice. But on the other hand, I feel, or it sounds nice, or it sounds, it seems to plug into this deepest need in the face of suffering, which is, again, community, that I believe, well, it's at least a claim worth considering, or it's, you know, in this sense, the answer that Christianity gives to the problem of evil is, well, it sounds, I would say, well, you know, too beautiful to simply discard.
Whoa, too beautiful to discard. That God had to use violence and torture so people will know, so people will be saved or have hope that their suffering will end in afterlife? I'm quite sure Lucas believes what I just said. I don't think he's a universalist, and I don't think he's a Christus Victor type. But maybe he is.
That's my response. And again, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Well, I'm happy to leave it. What I just noticed actually is that Lucas and I are on the same side, and then we've got the agnostic and the atheist on the other. So it's like almost there's something subliminal going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and for
us versus them.
I actually,
for the record, Joe Schmidt is an atheist. He calls himself an agnostic, but all agnostics, if you don't live your life like it's true, you're an atheist.
different my position is to Joe's, in that Joe describes himself as an agnostic, myself as an atheist, although it kind of depends on the context as to what I call myself, and I also don't really care for those labels particularly much. You can call me what you like, in other words, but I feel as though
call me what you want, but just don't call me late for dinner.
Position might be easier because you don't have to defend a side, as it were, and maybe that's why it might be a potential motivation for people to dress up agnosticism and call it atheism. I certainly have felt that when I've gone into a debate, I've felt comfortable in the fact that I don't often feel as though I need to actually defend a position at all, which I imagine is the same kind of position that Joe's describing. Although, of course, on particular arguments, you pick a side. On the problem of evil, I'm very much kind of atheist, you know. On I don't know, on the contingency argument, I think it's quite a good argument. So maybe for a time I was leaning more towards theism. I think I read some good responses, you know, but I feel like we might actually be on the same page, at least in regards to if we had to put down what our actual beliefs were on paper. I think they wouldn't be too dissimilar. I think I don't mean.
Did I hear you say that you lean toward theism for a while?
Oh, well, I put that too strongly. I mean, in terms of on this particular argument where I would.
It's an evidential shift, essentially.
Yes. But yeah, I don't mean to brush off or treat lightly the idea of religion and Christianity by telling the story of how it seems to be grounded in something, at least for many people, other than an intellectual pursuit. It's very clear to me that the most fundamental thing that human beings seem to need, outside of their most kind of basic Maslowian desires, is meaning. More so.
Yeah, these are psychological issues and factors, right? When I bring these things up, I get chastised. You're psychologizing, Doug. But let's see if Alex will give the same thing. Did you hear what he just said? It's not about the intellectual thing. It's about getting meaning out of life. It's like not being anxious, not being sad, not being depressed, having hope, having meaning, having purpose.
Then kind of intellectual consistency. It seems like the thing that people really care about, the thing that motivates them, the thing that gets them out of bed in the morning, the thing that makes life worth living, are not the arguments, but rather the meaning that the position can instill within a person.
Alex just trashed Cameron's channel here, I think. The intellectual side of Christianity. Nah, that's not what gets people out of bed in the morning.
I guess I just take a more pessimistic view in saying that I think the reason why that might have evolved is because that sense of meaning and purpose and transcendent truth might have been beneficial to us as a species. I totally understand if somebody values this stuff more than they value argument. And also, this isn't to say that you can't argumentatively defend Christianity. That's true. I just don't think, I'm not convinced that there's a good argumentative grounding for it. So kind of assuming that you're in the same position as me, somebody who finds it intellectually unsatisfying, and I would suspect also someone like Dostoevsky, who I think probably...
Yeah, push back on that, Lucas and Cameron. Alex just said there's basically no good argument for Christianity.
If someone takes the position that Dostoevsky takes and says, well, look, you know, it doesn't really matter because what I care about here is sticking with meaning. I guess I'm just of a different psychological constitution. All I'm saying is that I just can't do that. If I'm unconvinced of a claim, I can't just go around acting as though it's true. That's the criticism of someone like Jordan Peterson, right? It's the idea that, well, you can call yourself an atheist, you can be an atheist, but you don't act like one. I'm not really sure what it looks like to act like an atheist, or even indeed to act like a nihilist, because people act as if nihilists...
Well, to act like an atheist, you got to color your hair blue. You got to have earrings pierced in your ears for sure, and maybe your nose. Yeah, that's a good start if you want to act like an atheist.
Don't have desires, don't have wants that they have an interest in fulfilling. And if we're so evolutionary inclined as to be social species that care about the well-being of others, like we will have desires which are quite similar to the desires that somebody might have motivated by an ethical belief. Now, you need to be a bit more suspect with a nihilist because, of course, there may be times when, you know, they have an incentive to let on that they feel a particular way but don't really, and it's difficult to kind of safeguard against that kind of thing. But to act as though somehow to really live out nihilism is just to kind of lie in your bed.
Yeah, whatever happens though, like I can't grow my hair long, Reno, to look like an atheist. I guess I could get my nipples pierced. That would do it, right? Like that's something only an atheist would do.
Talking about Joe's, yeah, it was originally stemming from Joe's saying that he finds the pro-theism stuff kind of like one reason to lean toward theism, which I was actually about to come back to Joe. and ask him like, because I feel like you probably have like 10 different responses to things already, like in your mind that you want to run through.
Yes. Yeah, that's usually the case. And sometimes I write 40,000 word blog posts. Sometimes I write 40,000.
Doesn't it look like Joe's in a like one of those holding rooms just before he's off to go to jail, like at some police station?
About agnosticism being easier. So I kind of already mentioned some of my reservations about that. Namely, like you're almost getting attacked from all sides, and so there's a sense in which it's harder. But also, I mean, I think for someone to be an intellectually responsible agnostic, right, they have to have some reason for thinking that the reasons on either side are roughly counterbalanced. So they need to have gone through the arguments. They need to have evaluated the evidence. They need to look at these purported demonstrations or these purported arguments on one or the other side, and they need to be able to respond to those. So I think an intellectually responsible agnostic.
Yeah, maybe I've already pierced my nipples. But am I going to show it on camera? Not for free. If you have something that looks really good, you never show it for free.
Back on that. So I think, man, I just think that skepticism is a whole lot easier to do than to like give an argument for something. So it's a lot easier to poke holes in an argument than it is to just present an argument. So I guess that's kind of like where I'm coming from when I say that agnosticism just seems easier. It's because like even though like you're right in exercising intellectual virtues, you've got to like look at arguments, you've got to evaluate them and everything. But even so, I think that it's just easier to apply skepticism to some, because you can, I mean,
hey, my Muslim friend Omar's here. Yeah, it's supposed to be about Christianity, but I haven't heard much so far. It's more or less about philosophy.
Yeah, but I also think, Cameron, that I mean it's kind of the internet skepticism that is the position you're describing. I think, and there's probably a big misunderstanding about what skepticism was supposed to be, or at least Cartesian skepticism. I mean, Descartes was not interested in just, throwing rocks at, belief that people held, but he was really aiming at, building a more firm foundation for the sciences. So
wouldn't it be cool if they want to discuss Christianity, that Alex asks one of these two guys, well, why do you believe Jesus was God? That would be a cool question, right? Thanks for the donation, Nathan. Get your shame. See, that only an atheist would talk like that. Nathan's not an agnostic. He's proved his atheism here with his foul, debauched, chicanerized talk. Thank you, next. To quote Ariana Grande.
But that's because zero on both sides. It's like there aren't positive reasons favoring either side, and because of that, or they don't see good arguments on either side, and because of that, they remain agnostic. There's another kind of agnostic which thinks that there are two ginormous towers of evidence on both sides, and that is the reason why they're agnostic, because they see that there is evidence for both sides. And
yeah, it's interesting, right? It's like these two here, or actually all of them, a little bit like Darth Dawkins. He's so wrapped up in the philosophical grounding and that sort of thing. They don't want to talk about Jesus. Please, let's talk about Jesus.
Agnostics. It's not the case that I don't see a reason for either position. I actually positively see good reasons for both positions, and it is because of that I'm agnostic. And it's in virtue of that, at least for me, it's not easier than being a theist or an atheist, because I actually do defend these positive arguments, as you know.
Yeah, Joe, is there good reasons to think a man 2,000 years ago walked on water? Let's talk about that.
I debunked the atheist with flying color. No, I'm kidding. Yeah,
I wish you were. I really do.
But yeah, anyway, so that's a distinction that's relevant here. And then I guess the second thing, before I just turn it over to you guys, I know Alex was talking earlier about living out one's beliefs, right? And like, for instance, Alex has a value of truth, which of course I and I hope most people share. And because he values truth, he is not going to go for, or he's not going to be inclined towards something like, but acting in a way that contravenes what he thinks the truth or evidence shows. And what I want to say is that there's an interesting path, or there's an interesting space here for the agnostic. I recommend people check out Paul Draper's article, Confessions of a Practicing Agnostic.
Oh, boring. So he's talking about Paul Draper now. Brent Kaler says we should play a game. Let's mute them and try to guess what they're saying. Yeah, let's try it. He's saying, well, the Prius gets 40 miles per gallon, but if you really want a really fuel-efficient vehicle, then you go with the Tesla. It's just common sense. Like the Tesla, you don't even use the word gallon. That's what he's saying right now. Now, but if you do want to have a petroleum-fueled car, then I would hang on, I'm lip reading here. I would go with the Honda Accord because, I mean, like, look at what the Honda Accord can do. It can shoot up into the moon if you press the turbocharge, and it's like fantastic. I mean, look at the styling, and the fuel economy is great. You can get over what the Prius gets. So when it comes to fuel, full electric, hybrid, or gas, go with the Honda Accord. That's what he said, Brent. Okay.
Maybe I'll do that. But I wanted to let you talk about the protheism stuff, because that was a big chunk of the conversation earlier that you didn't get to respond to. So I know that you've been talking for a while, but I'm still curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So
yeah, we should have made a bet here on what percentage of this live stream will be about Christianity and what will be about basically general theism or deism in general. In fact, let's go back to our poll here. Where is it? Where are you? There it is. Refresh. Is religion a net good? 2/3 say no, and yes, and it's a push is tied. Interesting.
And to be reconciled with God. That seems to me quite evidently a much better state of affairs than everything just, going to naught in the heat death of the universe or something like that. So I don't know. And again, you can go back and forth. Anti-theists have some considerations, but I think the fact that there's ultimate justice, ultimate forgiveness, ultimate redemption, things like that, ultimate reconciliation with God, those seem to me to be pretty good pro-theist considerations.
Ultimate justice? Well, in some versions of Christianity, ultimate justice means you are not convinced of a certain proposition. You live a better life than most, let's say, Christians do, and you still spend eternity suffering, separated from God. Whereas someone who's done a lot of terrible things in their life, including murder, rape, and so forth, make a bedside confession and truly accept Jesus in their heart, and they go live with Jesus for the rest of throughout all eternity, which is supposed to be the best thing ever. How is that ultimate justice?
Yeah.
What about?
See, in this sense, the Muslims have it right. It's you got to put everything on a balance and see what the net comes out to.
Alex is concerned that he's more concerned with truth as opposed to like just pragmatic reasons in favor of some view.
Yeah. So I'm not leveling these things as reasons to believe theism, or things that count in favor of theism's truth. You might be able to run some kind of argument like that, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm just focusing on the question of.
Okay, we're within 100 now. Come on, we got. Let's beat them, guys. Oh man, this will bring much pain and suffering to Cameron.
We can compare the worldviews, which would be better. And I think that, and you can give reasons in favor of that don't require saying that those are against your pursuit of truth, or because I'm not saying that these are reasons to count in favor of theism, and I'm not saying that I'm not necessarily saying here that these are reasons to be or believe in theism or to be a theist. Rather, I'm just taking a stance on the question of which is theism or atheism, which would be better if it were true. So yeah, so it is relevant to Pascal's wager, for instance, to talk about your commitment to truth and how that might conflict with your commitment to certain religious practices and so on. With respect to the pro-theism.
Okay, that's enough, Joe. You've been talking too much. Am I right? He's okay. Let's Alex.
That's quite right. This contention or this idea about kind of what you want to be true being the deciding factor is only going to make sense all other things being equal, right? The only time when you're forced to make that, I mean, the situation that Joe constructed is one where he's got a gun to his head. Well, the gun wouldn't.
Can someone do me a favor? But I want you to be very nice about it. Don't be a douche. Can one or two people go into their live stream? Keep my tab open because I don't want my numbers to drop. But can someone go in there and say, when are you guys going to talk about Christianity? Or let's be more specific. Can we talk about Jesus now? Can someone do that in the live stream chat? Go there and ask to talk about Jesus? I'll give 10,000 Pine points to the first person who does that. Here's the chat. I want to see someone go in there and Oh, you gotta be a subscriber to Capturing Christianity because it's sub comments only. Oh yes, Nick, you did it right here. When are you going to talk about Jesus and the resurrection? Excellent, 10,000. Oh man, you got 20,000 Pine points today alone. It'd be good if someone seconded that. And if someone has money, if there's any rich atheists out there, actually most atheists are very rich because we're rich with the truth. You can do a super chat and say, "Can we talk about Christianity, please?" Or "Can we talk about Jesus, please?"
Being more apt to the truth, but it certainly serves one's self-interest, and I understand why they would do it. I
Nathan,
watched for the first time ever the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which actually, I think, Cameron, the last time I had a debate with Michael Jones on your channel,
you just watched it for the first time.
For the first time, I'm afraid to say.
How old are you?
Too old, it seems. 22, old enough that I was kind of.
Yeah, you're right. Slightly odd guy. This is boring, but this is fun because I want to heap guilt on these four, or especially these two, especially Cameron, because he's in charge of this thing. I want to heap guilt on them that they're not talking about Jesus. If they're supposed to be discussing Christianity, they should be discussing Jesus. And I think Jesus' name has only come out once so far, briefly.
And says, "Look, we've killed Frodo. Here are his clothes to prove it to you." They basically proved that they captured Frodo and that they killed him. And they're surrounded. They're completely surrounded. Their mission here is basically just to hold off this infinite army until Frodo can destroy the ring, right? But at this moment, it's like, oh, right, he's dead, and everyone kind of loses hope. They're like, well, this kind of sucks. But this arrogant guy goes like, I won't believe it.
We have a Muslim tattletale here. Truth about Islam. PineCreek is replaying your live stream. It's not wrong. And I'm adding value. I'm giving pithy comments. We talked about the Tesla versus the Prius. Yeah. See, this Muslim gentleman thinks that what I'm doing is shirk, right? Is that what they call it? Shirk? Omar, are you still here?
Frodo is still alive, it's probably worth doing so. And so they do. They continue to fight, and lo and behold, Frodo is alive, and that was the right thing to do. But the question that we were talking about after the film concluded was that a rational thing for him to do? Because my theistic friend who likes to argue in favor of Pascal's wager said that this was essentially an analog for Pascal's wager.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is almost Christianity. Yeah, I agree. They borrowed from the New Testament. I got to get rid of this. It's too big. Or yeah, I'll just make it smaller. PineCreek, you need to fast forward to see if they comment in the comments. No, I have the true, like the comments are always live. The live stream comments are always live, even though I'm a few minutes behind them. Oh, Matt, I know Matt here. He's saying, what about the cost of theism? Believe in God will help you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you didn't ask about Jesus. Like, let's talk about Jesus. My goodness, what's wrong with these people? Like Christians, you're hearing this, right? This is what do you call it? Intellectual masturbation? Is that, can I say that? Talking about philosophy? Like, just grant that God exists, and now let's talk about Christianity versus other religions, or just Christianity.
That your mission is over, but you just continue as if it's still going anyway. Was that a rational thing to do? Increasingly, I'm thinking that maybe that is a rational thing to do, but I'm not really sure. I hope that makes sense as why that's an analogous situation to the Pascalian wager.
Yeah, look at this guy here, Callum McCritchie. What a name! He's a lover of McClatchy, so he made his name sound like McClatchy. Truth about Islam. Yeah, PineCreek, the whiner I briefly spoke to on live chat from Sean McDowell. PineCreek wouldn't believe Christianity even if it was true. Yeah, that's the conversation I had with, what's his name? Hayden Clark. And people take that clip. It's fine. They can take that clip. But I was asked, would I accept Christianity or reject it if I was convinced it was true? And Hayden is, what do you call it? He believes that people are annihilated. I said, I would do what I would take for God to annihilate me. So if that means rejecting Christianity, I would. But then I said, if ECT is true, eternal conscious torment, then I would try to convince myself it is true because I don't want to burn forever or be in suffering forever. But anyhow, I always assume that people will misunderstand.
If you see what I'm saying, given the fact that the kind of result of not doing this thing is just death and destruction in the worst possible scenario. This is similar, I think, to theism being true and you deciding not to be a theist. You know what I mean?
I just wanted to put this on the screen really quickly. So he's taken the joy out of Lord of the Rings.
Hey, we're within 60.
I don't know what joy you thought was there in the first place. It was like, there's a scene at the beginning of the second film, I think, where...
Like, look at this. They rather talk about Lord of the Rings and movies like that than the Gospels. For shame. The topic is Christianity. For shame. If you're a Christian and you hear this right now, you should go in there and say, what's wrong with you guys? Why aren't we talking about Jesus and the rich, abundant evidence for who he was and what he did for us?
Lucas, you haven't talked in a long time, so why don't we? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was
Lord
wondering
Rings
whether
or Pascal's wager.
Yeah, I was wondering whether what you are describing, Alex, the question of whether it's the most rational option to embrace, again, to embrace that belief of which you may not be entirely sure, and yet, from a Pascal wager kind of sense, you have.
Man, Pascal's wager is so stupid. Everybody knows that only atheists are going to heaven, and I do not know why people like Lucas is taking such risks and rejecting atheism when there's so much at stake.
And the way you act and the way you go about life and the way you relate to people and relate to the world at large around you, if you get to align that with your belief, that is what I would call a virtuous situation. And in this sense, I wonder whether again, embracing a belief of which you may not be in.
Yes, DigitalGnosis. Nathan, you'll get your super chat money tomorrow when... Hey, is that happening? I haven't checked my email. Newsflash, I think I'm debating Trent Horn tomorrow afternoon, my time sometime. Do we have a time? The chat has paused. Oh, yeah. And the topic is... what these guys should be talking about. The topic is, did Jesus rise from the dead bodily? That's the topic, which is the most important thing, I think, in Christianity, for a lot of Christians at least. I liked your conversation with James Kuntz. Kuntz? Oh, the modern debate guy about Pascal's wager. Yeah. PineCreek fans, you can see me, but you're lame. I know you are, but what am I? I mean, this whole name-calling thing, sticks and stones.
This looks like. I don't know what is the unifying feature of the experience of an atheist or a nihilist, and what it is that's kind of missing from their lives that would make them universally, let's say, act differently or in an identifiable way.
Nathan, you can reply to Trent Horn for me because I'm live right now, but tell him just pick a time between 12 and 3 Mountain Time, and just let me know what it is exactly, and I'll be there.
Yeah, it's a good one. I wonder, even as I can talk from personal experience. Even as a Christian, I often feel like, well, my deepest emotions, or the way I think about the situation is very much not aligned with what Christianity teach, or what Jesus teaches me to how I'm supposed to feel or think about the situation. I mean, take just the classical example of someone doing wrong or something, someone violating your dignity or whatever. I mean, I know as a follower of Jesus, I'm supposed to forgive. And yet, I mean, my deepest gods tell me, well, I don't want to do that. But in this sense, I have a situation where I believe, I'm convinced that forgiveness is the best way to move forward. And so I align I tell myself, or I force myself, or I discipline myself to align my behavior in accordance with it, because so that I get to do what I actually profess to be true. So I think actually in a lot of ways,
So is he saying that his natural intuitions are contrary to the Bible sometimes? And I think he gave the example maybe of doing good to those who may be your enemies? See, the Mennonites really believe this strongly. They're pacifists. And so, but I'm against that. Like, if someone's coming in to kill my family, I will tell my dog to kill them. Yeah. And I will not feel bad about it. But I think a lot of Christians, they don't do this either, but they should say, go ahead, kill me and my family. We're ready to go to heaven. Turn the other cheek. Oh, you want my TV set? Oh, yeah, and take my wardrobe too. Didn't Jesus say that? You want my car? Oh, yeah, take my daughter as well. Go ahead and kill. I mean, because that's what Jesus said. Well, Jesus didn't say, how much for your daughter? But that's basically the gist, right? Trust me, in the United States of America, where we got patriots and people who love the military, some of the things Jesus said, no, we gotta kill the enemies. You can't. It's just. Like the whole concept of just wars and what Jesus said is intention. Because Jesus, I think, thought that the end of the world was coming, so just let people kill you. Love your enemies. How can you love your enemies and kill them?
You know, whether you're an atheist or a Christian or whatever, you often feel you have that challenge of feeling or going about or acting in a certain way that is maybe out of tune with what you profess to believe, and so you have to you have to work on bringing these things like in line with each other again, the way you act and what you profess. I don't think that's actually such a like an extraordinary situation. I mean, for
good question, Reno. Does Lucas forgive Putin? Like the Ukrainian Christians, should they say, take what you want, because our treasures are in heaven? To us, the Christian Ukrainian says, land? We don't need no stinking land. We have something much greater in store for us. So Putin, if you want to come in and wipe us all out, the Lord's will be done. Because, he's decreed everything from the beginning of time, if you're a Calvinist.
Just kind of a belief, well, you say that kind of praying for those who persecute you is the best way forward. Yeah. It's not just that, but there's something true about it. It's not just...
Oh, here it is. Nathan, is truth a guy with two holes in his hands? That's clever. Trying to get them to talk about Jesus.
Based on at least some atheistic worldviews. For example, if you don't believe in free will, or even if you do believe in libertarian free will, but are still something of a social constructivist about crime, or think that there are certain areas in which somebody isn't entirely in control of their own actions. It's like, well, okay, so we're in a similar boat where somebody comes and murders my family. Animalistically, I have an instinct to feel very upset, of course. I think I have rational reason to feel upset, but to feel angry at the people who did this. Whereas I find myself thinking, well, I'm guaranteed, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more certain of this than many other things in life, that
Yeah, I'm bored. Maybe every 15 minutes we need to remind them to talk about Jesus, since we want to talk about Christianity. I think it's been 15 minutes from the last reminder. Oh, there's unlimited seating in heaven. I don't think he'll do any of the super chats. Well, maybe a few, but not yours, Nathan. Because you're not worthy. I don't want to forgive PineCreek. You must, Brent. You must forgive me. Otherwise, your Lord in heaven won't forgive you for the chicanery and debauchery you've done this past week. What have you done, Brent, this week? I know you're a Christian. What bad things have you done this week?
Loving your enemies rather than just your brothers. But I think the way that you characterize it is kind of, well, to act that out, you have to realize that, well, it's going to be beneficial for me to do this because this is what Jesus seems to teach, and so that's what I'm
Jesus!
For me, it's more like, well, to act out this deterministic framework. I don't think, well, I ought to do this. This is going to be better for me. I'm just convinced that it is the case that person isn't guilty. And so when asked, I'm going to say, no, I don't think that person.
One of my favorite questions to ask to Christians is, why do you believe Jesus was perfect? Like, how would they answer that? They basically have to give the jingle that Apologia has, right? Because the Bible tells me so. It's basically the same question as, why do you believe Jesus is God? Well, because we have a creed that dates back to 2 years. Like, seriously, it should be no surprise to Christians that non-believers, non-Christians don't buy that for 1 second. Like, are you seriously surprised that people don't believe that Jesus was God in flesh and perfect? Like, really, is it that difficult for you to imagine that people just don't accept that? No, it's pretty easy, right?
To the extent that we originally thought, not because I think that's a good thing to do, but just because I think it's true, you know.
Why don't I debate Muslims? Well, I did go into Hamza's Den once, and I went on Thought Adventure podcast once, and they're welcome to come on my show anytime. I've invited them here on live stream. But yeah, the Muslims are just too good. They're too good to debate. I mean, they're just so far ahead of the Christians, right? Is that what you want to hear? Does that make you feel good? Warm and tingly inside?
Yeah, I got you. Well, I guess, I mean, we're opening the can of worms here with just no free will and morality. I don't know whether we want to go down that route. Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess, but do you feel that people should be held morally accountable? I'm just trying to kind of figure.
Oh, we're 2 away. We got to have some prize or something if we pass.
Again, to the whole realm of, moral behavior or immoral behavior. Do you sense, or do you feel intuitively or philosophically that, moral accountability is something to be pursued? Or do you, kind of the way you describe it, simply...
This is so ridiculous. Talking about anything but Jesus. Thanks for the donation, Killian Garincha. Hey, Doug, get yourself cheesecake. Hey, I appreciate it. But cheesecake costs at least $8 at the Outback Steakhouse. But I will use this towards the cheesecake. PineCreek has even gone on Muslim YouTube. Yeah, I have, yeah. Yeah, who's this PineCreek guy? Well, the thing is, when Jeff said that, he's a subscriber of mine. So, Jeff, you're just showing how much of an atheist you are. You went on Cameron Bertuzzi's channel and you lied. Or no, you were being deceptive. Just like God was. God causes deception in 2 Thessalonians 2, was it 26? Are we tied? Oh, we were tied. Oh, we got close and then we dropped back down because the Christians left because they don't want me to surpass Cameron Bertuzzi. That's what's happening here. Don't blow your cover. Well, Jeff, yeah, too late. I blew your cover.
There seems to be a bit of a contradiction here between kind of saying that we live in a deterministic universe, or at least one where people aren't in control of their actions, and yet holding people ethically culpable.
Now they're talking about determinism versus free will. All this is irrelevant to Christianity. Whether we're free or determined, and whether Christianity is true or not, those are two separate things. When did you give up on Applebee's? This is a more important question or issue than what these guys are discussing. I gave up on Applebee's years ago when their music was just too darn loud. I'm like that old cranky man, just... Don't you hate going to restaurants and they play the music way too loud? I hate that.
Such that person will change their mind. But of course, this isn't ethics, right? But when I make something more like a kind of, here's why you should be vegan, and bearing in mind, should is being used.
Now we're going to talk about veganism. Come on. We also have to get more likes than Caption Christianity. How many likes do they have? 182, and I have 107. You know, for every time you hit the like button, a child in Africa gets a hamburger. Since Alex is talking about veganism, let's give hamburgers to starving children in Africa. Actually, if they ate a hamburger, if they're starving, they would probably get the runs. We got to start with something less. Oh, blackouts in effect. Is Lucas in the Ukraine? Did he just lose power?
Alarm. I've always been worried about that.
I'm good. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
AJA
So when people have these debates, so they're actually just debating factual descriptive.
Hey, Cam Spires, you're alive. He liveth. Cam Spires died. He stinketh, but he believeth, and he raiseth from the dead. Good to see you again. Where are you right now? Are you New Zealand?
Attention to what it is I do when I argue for veganism. It's really a case of descriptive consistency making, which is...
I think we need to have a few of my subscribers go back in and ask to talk about Jesus, because they're forgetting this is about Christianity. Doug, you are so evil. Well, yeah, I'm an atheist. But yeah, you save an African child every time you hit the like button on my channel. That's just science.
Thinking that it also applies to a pig. People are welcome to just question the entire ethical basis of all this and say, well, who are you to be talking about ethics? It's like, good question.
Like, do you hate African children? No, you don't hate African children. So why have you not clicked the like button? If you don't click the like button, you're saying, let the children die. That's what you're doing. Do you want to be known as a child killer? It's going to be on your tombstone if you don't hit the like button. See, this is how you market. I'm a finance guy, but I'm learning because I've been listening to these apologists for years, and I'm learning how to do this. Oh, here we go. Hebrew law? Who's this PineCreek guy? So hot. Have we passed them yet? Oh, we passed them. 354 to 342. See, their numbers are going down because they're not talking about Jesus, and I am. Or at least I'm asking them to talk about Jesus. I am really more of a Christian channel than these guys are. Because I want to talk about how do we know who Jesus really was? How do we know what he really said? Look, here's marketing. My marketing is way better than his marketing. He's talking about an in-person exchange of ideas, 20% off. And I'm talking about children dying in Africa. Which is more important? And what's with the font? What is that?
That last exclusive ticket, which is that little reception that we've got, the 2-hour reception before the event actually starts.
This is cool. Steven asked, can you bring PineCreek in to ask some questions? Oh, man. I tell you, I could liven up this live stream on his channel in an instant. I mean, Lucas would be like, I was told that we would not talk about Jesus in this live stream. We would only talk about general theism and the ontological arguments and the moral arguments.
Too much awkwardness for you here. But what really set me off in digging deep into your moral philosophy or meta ethics.
Yeah, see, now we're back to moral philosophy. So there's a true Christian here in the live stream chat, in my live stream chat, named Brent Kaler. And he gets it right. Like, he knows what it's all about. And he asked me, Doug, what are your thoughts about Jesus? Okay, let me tell you my thoughts about Jesus. Jesus really existed. He was out of the Essene movement. He was born and raised as an Essene, he was born and raised to believe in that the end times were near. He was raised to, really value the suffering that the Jews had gone through under the thumbs of the Romans, and he was sick and tired of it. And I tell you, this Jesus guy, I was there in my time machine. I saw him. He was actually a good-looking guy. He had straight white teeth, which is really rare back then. And he had a full head of hair, not like me. He was like a Brad Pitt, okay? A little darker skin, but he was like a Brad Pitt. And he was charismatic. I mean, he just looked at the ladies and they swooned. He never swooned. He rose from the dead. But I mean, he really died. But yeah, so he was a guy who was charismatic and walked around and started preaching this type of a scene idea, apocalypticism, and got a following. It was not a huge following, but he got a following, and then he died. And he said some stuff that wasn't new, but still very powerful, like the pacifism idea that he probably borrowed from some versions of Hinduism. And he said some stuff like, maybe, you know, when you look at me, you do see God because of these ideas that he espoused. But anyhow, he died, and then his friends got sad. Mary, I was there. I was sitting next to Mary when she found out, and she burst out into tears. And then, like, a couple days later, I think it was a Sunday afternoon, I was watching football, and then Mary called me and said, I saw Jesus. I go, what are you talking about, Mary? I saw Jesus was in my living room eating nachos. And I talked to him. And then I thought, Mary's not going to listen to me. So I got Peter to come over. And Peter came over and he said, you know, last night in my dreams, I saw Jesus too. And that's what started this whole idea that Jesus rose from the dead. Not anything the Gospels talk about. But then that story of them seeing Jesus just spread like wildfire. And then about, 50 days later or something, they had a huge like Pentecostal type revival meeting. And I tell you, the bass player was amazing that night. I was there. I got a time machine. I was there. The bass player, don't, he was slapping that bass. And I tell you, everybody was getting into it. And Jesus appeared to 500 that night at that revival tent meeting. Even the camels were like, they were swaying back and forth. Everybody was juiced up on the poppy seed. And so the stories just started going and going, and that's where the whole creed thing came from. And then, you know, decades later, and people started dying off like fleas, and nobody was around to say otherwise. And so some really, I took my time machine up to Rome, and these guys sitting in their purple robes started writing these Gospels based on what they heard. So Christ is a myth, Brent Kaler. Jesus is not. Christ is. I'm a Christ mythicist, but a Jesus believer. He had skills. If Jesus had a YouTube channel, he'd have more subscribers than Cameron Bertuzzi for sure. He would market way better. I mean, he'd say, if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to walk on water for a day. Like he was way better at marketing than Cameron. Cameron's pretty good though. Did I answer your question to your satisfaction, Brent?
Cutting ourselves short, but I'd like to make sure there's some juice left over.
Yeah, I did want to give people just a kind of a taste of what it was going to be like. And that was, this is kind of a taste. And a lot of people in the comments were saying, when are you guys going to talk about Christianity? When are you going to talk about Jesus? And we tried to start with that. We tried to
we tried to talk about Jesus, but we just couldn't, because we want to talk about the intellectual side of Christianity. If we start talking about Jesus, about casting demons out of pigs and walking on water and turning water into wine, then things don't sound as intellectual. So forgive us, Christians. We tried to talk about Jesus. We really did.
You have 4 different people on. It can be difficult not to follow like these different rabbit trails, which is what happened. And again, the point of this is to give you a taste of what it's going to be like when we're in person. So we're going to have a whole lot more conversations.
Yeah, we're giving you a taste of what this conference will be like, where we don't talk about Jesus.
Coolest things about doing these in-person events. And Joe, you should try to come to CCV2 as well. But I guess both of you guys, Alex and Lucas, you're invited as well. But it's a little bit more of a distance for you to.
Yeah. Hey, welcome, Paul. Good to see you here. Yeah, we're toasting. We're roasting Cameron Bertuzzi's channel. You know why, Paul? It's obvious you just came here late. I'm talking about Jesus. I have 372 viewers. They're not talking about Jesus. They're talking about philosophy. They have 309 viewers. Jesus has done more for me today than Jesus has done for them. Whew. I got a little shiver there.
Travel. But what's so cool about these events is that you get to meet people. Well, in the case of at least CCV1, there was a whole lot of people that came that were already friends on Facebook and stuff that like they talked about these issues. And so this was like the first time that they were able to get together and communicate in person. And that was just like, I remember when I had my first experience that was like that. I partnered up with like a whole bunch of other friends that were part of this Facebook group. We went to go see Dr. Craig's Defenders class, and it was like so cool to meet all these people in person. That's one of the coolest things about these events is that you get to meet people in person that
yeah, no doubt. This is what Christianity is really about. It's about fellowship. It's about community. That's what you should be talking about more, and that's what's going to keep people in Christianity more, is when you can give hugs. Like, I mean, if Christians just gave me a hug or two, I'd be a Christian by now. But oh no, all they do is call me names. Say I psychologize. But all they need to do is meet me where I'm at. Say, Doug, we love you. We love you. Give me a hug. That was sarcasm, by the way, because I'm Canadian. Canadians hate hugs. We barely even shake hands. Same with the Brits. You Americans you're so weird, especially you Southern Americans with all your hugs. Surprised you don't kiss on each cheek.
Totally. Unless Joe, what are you? Let's do this. Before we close it out, Joe, do you have any thoughts on their conversation?
Oh boy, of course I do, but no, I'm not really going to comment all that much. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing people in person. I've had a few people who are either like my patrons or who I've worked with, and they're like, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so they basically are done, and they did not talk about Jesus hardly at all. Like, wouldn't it have been great if Alex would have just looked Cameron in the eyes and say, Cameron, like, let's get real here. Why do you believe this is true? Because a God could exist. All the contingency arguments and ontological arguments and moral arguments and all that, you have it. Take it. But why do you believe Jesus actually was the guy the gospel says he was and did the things he did? Why, Cameron? Can you imagine the dead silence that would ensue? I don't think Cameron's prepared to actually talk about Jesus. He probably would parrot Habermas, right? Isn't that what he would probably go to with the minimal facts?
I'm still here. I'm not much of a sporting person. I upset quite a lot of people recently in my latest video about the West Ham footballer Kurt Zuma, who decided to kick his cat across his kitchen. I opened the video by saying that there are...
Yeah, now they're talking about cats. Why are these people on CC's channel on your gonads, PineCreek? They're not on my gonads. I'm Canadian. I need a hug. Yeah, Laser Wolf. There's some Canadians who are that way. They usually are the type of Canadians that like curling. They prefer curling over hockey. Those Christians who need it. Those Canadians who need a hug. I'm not judging you, but you're a curling guy, right? Am I right? Let me know.
But yeah, usually you just call them by the international team name. So like France playing Spain.
Is France good? You're getting some kind of degree in something.
Yeah. My book. I recently got a book manuscript scholarly monograph.
Yeah. We don't care about any of that. Okay, so that's done. Let's get back to the poll that I had early on. Is Christianity or is religion a net good? Refresh. Hasn't changed much. 69% say no. 15% says yes. And it's a push. I would love for Christians to just have a Christian-only poll. Like when Inspiring Philosophy debated about religion being a good thing, he brought up all these studies. And he wasn't realizing that he was defending Islam at the same time. I really do think, like, if you use those studies to say religion's a good thing, then you have to say Islam's a good thing. Net. Gutted and heartbroken. Nathan, why are you gutted and heartbroken? Because they didn't talk about Jesus? Anybody want to come in? Oh, why am I there twice? Cam, did you want to come in? If you're still here? Everybody misses you. Everybody loves you. Everybody wants you. Some people don't even know who you are because you've been out of the game so long. Why don't you come in and introduce yourself? You know you want to. Whereby... And let me pin it. Oh, I have to unpin this first. I don't think any of the super chats got asked, right, Nathan? Okay, room's open. Come in if you're a Christian and you want to talk about Jesus, because those people on CC's channel didn't want to talk about Jesus. Did you see Bread of Life's graphic? Yeah, I saw that. She treated me like Batman. I'm working, but I would like to get back into things in the future. Okay. Yeah, I forgot people have jobs. I have a job too, but I'm also the boss. Well, second in command to Satan. PineCreek always needling these Christians because it's fun, DJ Frank. And the thing is, I know exactly where to needle them. I know their soft spots under their belly. Hey, what time are we doing it tomorrow?
Oh, is it tomorrow? I thought it was in March, actually. So maybe it's in a week's time.
I thought it was March 1st. That's tomorrow, right? Because there's only 28 days.
If it's March 1st, then yeah, let me just have a look. 1 to 3 p.m. MST. Is that your time zone in Arizona? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm MST. Yeah. MOUSE.
Yeah, 1 to 3 p.m.
What's the date, though?
Yeah. Tuesday.
That's tomorrow.
Tuesday, March 1st. Yeah, tomorrow then.
Well, good thing I reminded you. Since you're hosting. Okay, yeah. So let's pick a time. What you probably want to go late, right?
No, 1 to 3 p.m. MST.
Oh, starting at 1. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere in that time window is okay for me, I think.
Okay, we'll start at 1. My time. What state is Trent in? Is he in California?
Texas, I think.
Oh, he's in Texas? So he'd be central then, right? So that'd be 2 his time?
I have no idea what the US time zones are. I mean, other than like East and West, we're obviously... Pacific is obviously not on the Atlantic Ocean, but...
Okay. So yeah, email him, say, Doug says 1's good. Tell him to wear the full armor of God. Not to forget the sword and the breastplate.
Particularly the breastplate, if he's got protect from those nipple piercings. I can't. 2 wasted super chats tonight. You didn't fulfill your duty to do whatever the super chat says, and Cameron didn't ask. So I've wasted.
Well, no. You gave me a super chat. Yeah, you did, and I read it, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but you've got to do what it says if someone's paying you money.
Well, the problem was you didn't pay me enough money. Like, even when I was a dancer, like, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if I hadn't done that, if Cameron would have done super chats. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to... I wonder if he would have taken a few. Because he also saw when people were saying talk about Jesus as well. He was like, there's a few people saying talk about Jesus, but, there's a lot of people in the room and we can't just talk about Christianity, it's difficult to keep the conversation.
Hey, Maverick Christian's here. You're welcome to come in. I mean, Maverick Christian, why didn't they talk about Christianity if it says discussing Christianity? They mentioned Jesus, I think. I bet you if we do, when the transcript comes in, the name Jesus came up less than At least,
I think.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Like if
I don't know that it's.
if Christians want to hear about Christianity, they come to my channel, not Cameron's.
I think it's expected because I mean, like my theory about what Cameron's doing, of course, is like telling a particular story about why it's reasonable to believe the core claims of Christianity for people who are struggling with cognitive dissonance. And so, you know, there's no reason to talk about any of those other things. The point is to just keep using intellectual, academic type language in order that people think that there's a genuine intellectual and academic activity taking place, right? And so this is my criticism with people like Joe and stuff going on Cameron's channel as well, is that I sort of get a sense that they kind of get used by him to legitimize the discourse that he's putting forward, or make it look like he's doing something that he isn't. Because now he can say, yeah, look, I had, you know, the top atheist on for a conversation, and really, you know, it's all just softball questions. Like everyone's heard Joe before, for example, say, here's what I think about agnosticism, or I think there's a lot of stuff to be said on either side. But people want to know, like, well, tell us, you know, like, really hash out these issues. Do you think that Cameron's rational to think a guy rose from the dead? Do you think that his takes on the climb are actually good? Do you think, you know, it's all kind of, but it's just this softball stuff.
Yeah, but as soon as you use the word rational, is Cameron rational? Then they'll start talking about the definition of rational, what it means to be justified and rational and reasonable. Like during tomorrow's debate, I gotta try my hardest to avoid all those words because I want to talk about Jesus. I don't want to talk about any type of philosophy.
Well, I've got to decide what I've got to do to be a good moderator because of you being difficult. Trent wants the format. Trent wants the format, and then
he can have the format.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, exactly. You're going to do that. You can have the format. You win, Trent. There you go. And I'm going to be like, oh, what the fuck do I do now? Like, okay, do you guys want to talk? Like, I want to be fair to Trent as well. I don't want to.
Yeah, no. Trent can say whatever he wants to say, and I can ignore what he says, or take whatever he says and talk about it. But, yeah. To me, I don't care.
I know. And that's why it's difficult though, because I don't want to. If you're gonna sort of completely reject the format that he wants, I feel like it would be unfair to then just be like, oh, now you just do what Doug wants. You know, like I feel like I don't know how to deal with it.
Who's going to go first on the opening statement?
Well, what was the title precisely again? Because I think
something to do with Jesus rising bodily.
Yeah, he wanted something. Did Jesus rise in bodily form from the dead? So I guess he'll go first because he wants to take the affirmative, right? And then you can go second.
And whatever he says, I don't have to say anything in response to what he says on my opening statement, right? Isn't that the way?
So, yes. Yeah, so he wants a 50-minute opening statement, and then he wants like these rebuttal sections. So I guess that they are directly responding to the opening statements, and then he wants a cross-examination of 10 minutes, and it feels like that is
short,
the interesting part, and very short. Yeah, and a 30-minute audience Q&A, and then 5-minute closing statements. It's very regimented, very short.
Yeah, that's all right. It's a start for him.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, just as someone who's interested, I'd want to see you guys talk for like an hour or something, really, rather than this. But
the audience Q&A was probably going to be the real meat of it. That's my guess.
Maybe if you get through it, I could just say, well, do you want to hang around and talk? And then you can always go.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's interesting. Maverick Christian's more into philosophy than Jesus. Okay, gotcha, Maverick. Oh, no, he said apologetics. Sorry.
Yeah, it's true, though. I mean, I think it particularly came across, for example, you know, in that Gary Habermas interview that Cameron did, where Gary's telling him about things that are in the Bible that are really basic, and it's all new to Cameron. And, you think about the amount of specialist language that Cameron's learned to do with philosophy or contingency arguments and things like that. And yet he doesn't know the core central like parts of the Bible and the theology of his religion. I just find that kind of astounding that he's like, I I'm going to be someone who advocates for Christianity. And really, it just seems like he either doesn't care, or does he even have a personal relationship with Jesus? Like, I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone has a personal relationship with Jesus, but I mean, in the sense of there are certain people who go through certain activities, like praying all the time or reading the Bible and going to church and doing certain things. And really, like, is Cameron doing these things? It seems like he just talks about the philosophy, and doesn't understand, doesn't understand where bits of theology come from in the Bible. Hasn't really made an attempt to engage with those things. It's just surprising to me.
Areno says, Areno Benjamin, did you see Translated's video on homosexuals? Yeah, I did see that one. I haven't responded to it, but I mean, he's very conservative. If you're a practicing homosexual, you're sinning, and you should not be a leader in the church. And if you live your life that way, you are probably going to hell. You can't get more conservative than that.
So, something I find weird about Catholics is, and this applies in the case of Trent as well, is how reasonable he seems when you're talking to him. And then occasionally he'll just come out with these takes, like on IVF or on homosexuality or whatever. And you're like, whoa, what the hell? Like, where did that come from? Like, like really staunch medieval views on things, basically.
Yeah.
So same with like Alexander Proust, like the really smart philosopher. He's got this blog post about how it's immoral to use condoms. And I'm like, it's just so ridiculous.
What year do you know what year the Enlightenment started, or what the cutoff year is? It's probably a range, right? It's a range.
Yeah, it's not, and it's even contested whether like the Enlightenment is really like this thing that actually even happens, in history. But I think it's going to be, it's going to be somewhere around like the 1850s, 1900s, somewhere around there.
Yeah, conservative Christianity and conservative Islam is
the cutoff. Yeah.
They are 1,700 people. I mean, they're people from the 1700s, basically. And I just got to encourage Trent to move up a few hundred years. Catch up.
If people are watching, by the way, and want to come in, like I'm more than happy to secede my space to like Maverick Christian or someone if they want to come in.
Maverick, he said he's been here, done that. He's okay. He just wants to talk about philosophy because that's what he really loves, and I don't love it. So,
I don't know did you ever watch the debate between him and James Fodor? That was a very funny one.
No, I never saw that one.
They talked about the evolutionary argument against naturalism, and it's just a very funny debate for a lot of reasons. One reason it's quite funny is because Maverick Christian keeps saying garbage mental state and kind of like burping into his mic as well. And so it's funny from that point of view. And then James gets kind of...
Maverick was burping into his mic?
I did not intentionally, but he just kind of...
Maverick, what's wrong with you? You were burping into your mic?
He was like coughing and burping and stuff and saying like garbage mental state. And then James kept getting annoyed because Maverick kept basically saying to every objection, yeah, I've dealt with that in my paper or whatever. And James is like, I'm not talking to your paper, I'm talking to you. So what do you have to say about it? It's just quite a funny discussion for those who are interested in those things.
Oh, he says he was clearing his throat.
He's clearing his throat.
Yeah, that happens. I got to do some voice exercises tomorrow so I don't clear my throat. The gospel's foolishness to those who are perishing. Now, if you take that at face value, what are people like Maverick Christian and Capturing Christianity trying to accomplish then? Like it's a feature, it's not a bug, right? Christianity's feature is that it's nuts, it's crazy talk. That's the feature.
I think that their theology is going to be slightly in tension with some of their philosophical views there. I mean, there's a philosopher called Helen de Cruz who did some research into like the psychology and stuff behind religious belief, and I think she might even be a Christian. But I mean, I think the upshot of that was that a lot of apologetics really does exist to help people deal with cognitive dissonance, basically. And I get the impression that that's the story that's being put forward by channels like Cameron and so forth is, look guys, there's really good reason, like people like Jonathan McLetchley, Lee McGrew, we're evidentialists because we're so confident the evidence is on our side. It's not ridiculous, there's so much evidence, look, there's all these reasons, there's all this specialist language you can use. And it's kind of like from my point of view, it's all kind of like a show. Like I don't think there's a whole lot that stands behind a lot of this specialist language, that it means that much, that it uncovers the way reality is. It's just sort of language games that you can learn to participate in, and then you kind of sound plausible, like you're plausibly saying something specialist about these topics.
Yeah. The Enlightenment started with Locke and Newton in the late 17th century. That'd be the 1600s.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, again, there's a book I'm reading at the minute that sort of talks about how it's one of those things where it's a contested kind of historians take different positions, right, on what the Enlightenment is, how you characterize it, what time spans it's over, whether it's even useful to talk about it in those terms. And so I tend not to sort of like say stuff about, well, the Enlightenment is when like people just stopped thinking stupidly and figured out that like science was right or something, because I don't know that that's exactly what happened then.
Yeah, I had an interesting text this morning
about.
In my mind, I'm debating whether for my wife. She said, she basically asked, as to my wife and my kids, our kids, asking a plea to come back to Christianity or go to Christianity. Just out of nowhere.
Was she at church or something, or had she just been to like a Bible study?
Well, yesterday was church, so
maybe there was a message there
But guess what her reason was, like that or what she mentioned as why we should become Christians.
I'm gonna guess it's hell, but I honestly don't know.
No, she went the other way. She went to heaven. She basically, I want to spend. I want to spend eternity with my family in heaven.
That's really sad.
So what would you do in that situation? Would you fake it, ignore it?
I don't know that I'd ignore it, but I'm trying to put myself in your position. I don't know exactly what your family dynamics like and everything. I think if I'm trying to imagine like if V became a Christian, right, and she texted me and said like, I want to be in heaven forever with you. Like I don't want you to miss out on that. How the hell would I respond? Like, I think this is something we definitely have to talk about, right, to understand why we disagree.
Yeah, but I know that she doesn't want to talk about it because then it gets into why do you believe this is actually true, and then you got to defend your position and or listen to me why I think it's false. But there's so many assumptions in that you can just choose to okay, starting tomorrow I'll be a Christian. Like you can't just up and choose something. Right. You be convinced, and then also I don't even believe hell and heaven are real. Like it's.
Well, maybe those are the sort of things to talk about, right? So rather than it being like one of the like the call with Jim Bob or something, right? like that style of conversation. Maybe it's just to say, like I can't just force myself to believe something that I don't think is true.
Brent says
have that mutual understanding.
Brent Kaler says, "I'll show you how to get back into Christianity, no charge." Brent, you're being far too cocky right now. You know what it takes for me to get back into Christianity. I've said it 1 billion times on my channel. And with a capital K, that's not going to happen. I mean, that what I require as a test, like if you want to meet in Albuquerque and soak a napkin at, we can meet at Outback Steakhouse. You want to soak a napkin at Outback Steakhouse and pray in the name of Jesus to light on fire? That's not going to happen. And yet this is what I require with no qualms about it. I'm not ashamed one bit that that's my requirement. because my standards are high. I don't lower my standards just for Jesus.
He says you just need to want to go back to Christianity. I think there's some truth to what
Well,
you
yeah,
say there, though, right?
you got to want, but why do I need it? I mean, I don't need Christianity, so why would I want it?
Well, he needs to create that want in you somehow. Maybe like
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He's like Saitan Bruggencate. Basically, Brent, you're like Saitan Bruggencate, who prayed for me after the interview I had with him that my life would become a wreck.
Yeah. That you're right in what you're saying. It's that because I'm reflecting back on like my own personal experience over the past 6 months and stuff, which is still tied into my deconversion, I suppose, because it's only like a year after or whatever. But it's like basically being sad and desperate is what makes me go back to religion in various forms. And for you might need like something bad to happen in your life to cause that, and then to change your desires.
Like Brent, I was told a few years ago that I was going blind within 5 years, completely blind. That didn't do it. Like if you're a Christian out there and you believe that in order for me to go back to Christianity, I'll have to want to go back to Christianity, which means if I'm content and peaceful in my life right now, you got to pray that my life becomes crap. You got to pray that I get cancer. You got to pray that I get in a car accident and I lose a limb. You got to pray horrible things will happen to me in order for me to, Lord, I'm at my last straw. Where are you? And just think about how sick that is. If this is what you're thinking, Brent, maybe you're not thinking this, but it sure sounds like it.
Do you think in your own psychology that there is something that could happen to you that would make you become like desperate and kind of go back to Christianity, like
lose part of my brain
or money
in a car accident, like I get a head injury? No, the way I'm currently wired right now, it's like I said, like once you go into the closet and you see the presence on the floor of your parents.
Yeah.
You can't go back to believing Jesus is Santa. That Santa exists. Whoops. And Brent, that verse, Mark chapter 12:25. Yeah, I could say that to my wife, that there's no marriage in heaven, and that basically, even if I were to go to heaven with my wife, it's not like I'm special in her eyes compared to you when you're in heaven. We're all equal and special and lovey-dovey and kumbaya. I mean,
there's a part in the C.S. Lewis book about heaven and hell, The Great Divorce, where there's like as a narrative device, there's a woman who went to heaven and a man who's in hell, and they kind of meet, and she's trying to convince him to come back to Jesus, and then C.S. Lewis is telling this story about how he's sort of given over to his sins, so he's become this kind of like wretched guy who's like, I don't want to go there or do any of that. I don't know if that sort of story would be useful, maybe. But then maybe she'll just like come to see you as someone to hate or something. I don't know enough about her or your relationship to really.
Yeah, I think I just have to ignore it because by addressing it will make things worse.
I don't know. I mean, you've been married like longer than me, right? So maybe you know better how to deal with these things. But my impression is that talking about it in some capacity would be healthy. But I mean, I've not kept a marriage going for however many years to like know how you deal with these sorts of things.
Brent says, No. That is why I was asking you how you stopped loving Jesus. Okay, that's a fair question. How did I stop loving Jesus? I mean, this is such a simple question. It's because I came to the conclusion that Jesus is dead. That what I thought was a relationship with him was my own participation in social contagion. That's how, Brent. And you do not have a relationship with Jesus either. I'm going to say this with confidence. Now, I can be confident and say like I know it and still be wrong because I'm not saying certainty here, but you do not have a relationship with Jesus at all. You have a relationship with an idea.
Yeah, the question for someone like Brent is to put some specifics to what that relationship of Jesus is. because when I reflect back on, I mean, he could have a different thing entirely, but when I reflect back on my experiences, there's occasional kind of vague feelings, after in a Bible study, you've had a couple of coffees or something, maybe you feel a bit euphoric during prayer, or maybe when you're singing a hymn, as the stained glass light comes in through the window, you feel a bit differently or something like that. But I mean, specifically, why attribute any of those sort of feelings and things to Jesus, this Jew who lived 2,000 years ago, who's supposedly at the right hand of the Father? Like, that content isn't a part of any of those experiences.
Yeah. This discussion here is, I think, a prelude to what's going to happen tomorrow with Trent Horn. It really is.
I honestly don't know. I think you're going to have a bit of work to do in making him not think you're evil, so you can like have a conversation, and so he's not in.
Oh, I could just own it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's something you've done before as well.
Yeah. So I got to make a decision if I want to talk to him or talk to his Catholic audience.
Right. And
I'm already resigned that I'm actually talking to his Catholic audience and not him. This is not a debate between me and him. And then I also got to decide if I want to purposely have his Catholic audience hate me or like me, because I can use both to my advantage. Because it's almost better to have them purposely hate you, and then you say something somewhere in the debate, and they go, "What?"
Yeah, and they agree with it. And that could be some of your conservative politics or something like that. You could say something like that. They're like, "Damn, I don't agree with him on that point."
I mean, it's just, and the thing is, they're going to believe that I'm under the power of the evil one because they're going to see how easy it is to do that, to manipulate their thoughts. But it's actually a science called psychology. Gabe wants in.
Gabe or gay?
Gabe.
Okay, not gay, but like happy.
Yeah, I'm talking to Trent tomorrow. What did you say? 1 o'clock? 1 to 3?
Mountain time. Yeah.
1 to 3 Mountain time. So what is that? That Pacific, that's noon, and Eastern, that's 3. What is it in the UK?
Greenwich Mean Time, 8 p.m.
Oh, that's perfect for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, leave.
Yeah.
I'll let Gabe in.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow then.
See you tomorrow. Thanks for doing this, by the way. And I hope a lot of people give super chats to Nathan's channel tomorrow, because I'm telling you the truth, I turned down $1,000 to do it on Nathan's channel instead of Matt Frad's channel. He seriously offered me $1,000 to do it on his channel, which is sad if you think about it. Who am I? I'm a farm kid from Canada, and he's offering $1,000 to host the debate. Okay, Gabe. So anyhow, pay Nathan the $1,000. Hey, Gabe.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So why do you think so many Christians think you're acting in bad faith or something? That's why I don't understand. So you're talking about Trent's debate tomorrow a little bit. I'm just curious. It's like, I don't get it. Do you have any insights?
I've been on some of his comment sections of his channel, and so I'm just basing a lot of that on how they treat me in the comment section. And not all, but a lot of them basically are like these really young male Muslims, like, Trent's gonna smash you, he's gonna destroy you. It's like okay.
I don't think it's just them, though. I think you're onto something, like an accurate assessment of the way a lot in the Christian apologetics community kind of perceive you,
because I cut through the crap. That's why. I
mean, is it just a feelings thing? Like, so here's the thing. I can understand if you're like, I'm into philosophy, and you're not philosophically inclined, but I wouldn't think you're acting in bad faith. I'd just be like, oh, he's frustrating sometimes. But like, that seems like something completely different.
Well, let's see. It depends on which Christians you're talking to. There's a lot of Christians who love me. In fact, I just played a clip from a pastor guy who said, I'd rather hang out with PineCreek than some of my Christian people in the church, because they're backstabbing gossiper types, and PineCreek seems like a straight shooter. And so, yeah, there's probably a lot of Christians who really appreciate me and what I'm doing, and they actually think I'm doing good for Christianity, because like we just watched with Cameron Bertuzzi's channel, they spent an hour or so talking about Christianity without mentioning Jesus.
I mean, I think it's just like this nicety game. It's just like we have to, I don't even know what it is. It's like you have to have a conversation with kid gloves in order to have a intellectual, productive conversation. And maybe you're right. It's the sensitivity thesis, right? It's just people just can't handle.
Well, you know, when the Street Epistemology crew reviewed a video I did, the video where I talked to Jim Bob, and they were saying, like, when I ask, why do you believe this? That seems offensive to a lot of people. How dare you ask why I believe something? In other words, what I should have done, based on the science of human psychology, is said, help me understand where you're coming from in this issue. Instead of, why do you believe this? I mean, it saddens me that people are not tough enough to even assume I have the worst possible motives. They should still give an answer to that type of question, instead of me having to work so hard and not demand things or use the word you and have to, we're on a team together, let's help each other, understand each other, blah, 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 and then let's hold hands and give each other a kiss. I mean,
yeah, that's there was a Joe Schmidt he likes to talk about. It's like all the goal of peace and love, and I want to take this personally. I'm just like, why do we need this? Like, why do we need this introduction? And then he still lays into Trent Horn, but and so it's like, so I don't get the point behind that. It's
well, if I want to puff myself up, which I've never done before, but I'll do it now. This one instance is that I'm effective. That a lot of Christians think bad thoughts about me because I actually do cause people to leave Christianity.
Yeah, that might be the big thing, right? So if you're effective and it's weird because I feel like you can come across people who talk about Christianity and they realize the stakes are high, at least in their view, right?
Some of them, yeah.
And they're willing to still have the conversation, and they don't let that really affect them. But so I feel like though then that we're saying is that there's this group of apologists. It's like, so really the most pessimistic look at something like Catholic Christianity's channel might be, it's like, it's just Christian advertising, it's Christian publicity. Now, I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but like in that sense, it's like, well, we already know what we already know it's true. We already know that heaven and hell are on the line. And so therefore, yes, it does matter whether someone's effective or not. And then, you know, you start cherry picking. You want the people who are most soft spoken to be on the channel, and or to talk about questions in a general sense, and then to get into specifics when you have someone like Gary Habermas. Like, I don't even know how well respected Habermas even is in like the
Christian circles
community.
Yeah.
Like, people about Richard Carrier being fringe, I'm like, I think we could say that for Gary Habermas. It's like,
well, I lost respect for Gary Habermas years back when he, with that whole first century mark thing, seen how desirous he was for something to be true when it wasn't. And then I got a little bit of respect for him back when he apologized for it recently. And then I lost it all again when he said he would give me a list of names and then backed out of it.
He shot you that email, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. Like, it just has to be a cop-out, right? He doesn't have a list. Like, I don't, like, even if you're the worst actor ever, like, why not send you the list? It's like, I mean, surely that could curb the enthusiasm. Heck, he could post it on his Twitter somewhere. Hey, I sent this asshole PineCreek a list of people here. He just didn't accept it.
Yeah, I want to bring that email back up. It really sounded to me like some other people emailed him or talked to him and said, don't interact with me. See if I can find it, but
yeah, that's why. It's weird. I mean, I guess it's religious, so but it kind of feels cultish almost in a sense, like don't interact with the outsider.
I did this in good faith. Okay, he's talking about his promise in quotes to me to give me the list. I did this in good faith as I anticipated a friendly dialogue, but several people wrote me after the show and told me what they said they had observed with you on other occasions. So as Billie Eilish said, I'm a bad guy.
So do you think it's just random comments, or do you think someone?
Oh, no.
Do you think Cameron reached out, or I don't know, some other people?
I don't know who, but people that rub shoulders with Gary Habermas know me. The thing is, I emailed Lycona after this to ask for the list. And I don't think Lycona said bad things about me because just the flavor of the emails seemed pretty nice and friendly. So I don't know who.
Yeah, like I actually thought your interactions with Lycona were fairly productive. Like even if there was disagreement, like I would not have expected it to go as well. Like Habermas, but like, have you ever tried reaching out to someone like a Frank Turek? Because like I almost feel like even though he's more combative, like he would handle your rhetoric more without
who, Lycona?
Holding and crying about it as much, maybe, or he would fight back, but like he wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to talk to the guy because of, I don't know.
Yeah, who, Lycona you're talking about?
No, Frank Turek.
Frank Turek. Frank Turek. Yeah, I agree with your assessment. Actually, can you turn your camera so your back of your head?
My lighting is terrible.
Yeah, yeah. We got a Christian in live stream chat who just can't focus unless the lighting's perfect.
Here, I'm listening here. I'm just going to open up the shades, listen to natural light, all right?
That might make it worse, but try it.
Okay, well, turn on the normal light then.
Because I'm here to please Maverick Christian, and he doesn't like the lighting. And if he's not happy, we can't continue.
Try that a little bit.
Hang on.
It's not great, but
I just got a text. That's from Jesus. You said I'm dead, but I text you every day. I'm alive. Okay. Frank Turek. What Frank Turek would do if I ever debated him in quotes is he would do the same thing Capturing Christianity did. He would not talk about Jesus. He would go into precept mode, talk about laws of logic, morality, Kalam cosmological argument. I'm quite sure.
Probably
and then
a bag of chemicals a few times.
Well, if naturalism is true, then here's the consequences. You're just a sack of chemicals, and there would be no free will, no morality. But what my strategy with a guy like him is, you're right, God exists. Now let's talk about Jesus. And he would, Frank Turek knows that if he's walking down the street with me and we see a guy on the street seizing up and frothing at the mouth, it's not demon possession, as he's probably sick, mentally ill, epileptic seizure. Frank's not that different than me. And he knows this, and I know this, and this is what causes doubt in Christians' minds when they read the Gospels.
Yeah, I just hosted a live stream recently about miracles. I think that's really what we're getting at, right? Like, we're not just talking about. It's still surprising. We want to talk about God, and it's like the step between God and religion. It's just so frustrating to me. I think it's because people feel uncomfortable talking about miracles because they feel stupid about it.
Hey, man!
They feel it makes sense.
This makes sense.
Yeah, Frank agrees everything we're talking about.
But yeah. So as far as Cameron's channel, I don't know. I feel I'm gonna give give him his due a little bit. So maybe you won't agree with this. I do think and maybe it's not fair because you're kind of around. You were kicking around before Capturing Christianity came along, right? So this kind of open conversation, dialogue with different people, try to basically creating a community where people are talking about these things more, where people who are in isolated Christian communities otherwise would have just never encountered this kind of a conversation before. I feel like he's been part of that, and I think he has helped that along, even if maybe he's presented things in a way that's slanted toward his view. I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that he's presented things in that way. But
well, no,
I don't know. We say he's a net bad for. I think it's good to maybe to have him kicking around.
He's changed a lot over the past few years, and maybe I have too in some ways. But no, he was a douchebag early on. Cameron Bertuzzi was.
You remember the street epistemology stuff? I don't remember him from those days, so I haven't gone back that far.
No, he purposely would. I think about the lowest level YouTube commenter on a typical Christian channel arguing with atheists, and that was Cameron Bertuzzi. That's how bad he was.
So he's getting clout from the people he hosts.
And I invited him on my show very early, and he said no. And then once I got a little bit bigger, and I guess he started in the game, then he invited me on his show, and I said, no, I invited you on my show first. And
YouTube drama, here we go.
Yeah, and it's like, and then what he did with my friend Cam, like trying to break up our relationship over like.
Wait, what happened with that?
You haven't heard this?
I don't. I mean, maybe, but it must have been.
This was years ago.
About
This was years ago, and it was basically, he reached out to Cam Spires, who was here today. He might still be here, and he can attest to this. But the flavor of it was, Cam, you know Doug's just using you. He's just using you for views. You're a smart guy, Cam. Why are you going on Doug's channel? Let him do his own thing. Like, you should start your own channel. Forget about Doug. I'm paraphrasing, but I could bring up Facebook messages and show them publicly if I want to, but I won't. I mean, and to me, it's not about the veracity of it. Like he could, but the point, well, I don't believe any of that's true, but even if it were true, the point that he's trying to break up a relationship between two guys who he views as friends, or at least we view each other as friends. He's trying to say, get rid of Doug. You don't need him. Don't go on his show. He's just using you. He's trying to break up a friendship. And I thought, that's horrible.
Let's psychologize him a little bit then. You know, it's like, so I get vibes that, so maybe he's, I don't think he's taking the criticisms we brought up seriously. I don't think he's maybe not even getting them in some
Which criticisms?
The ones about, you're slanted this way and that way. Maybe he is purposely doing it. But so I guess, I think he's honest in his belief, right? Do you think he's a sincere Christian? He does care about people going to hell. He's not, he might be, it might be his livelihood now, but I think he cared the fact that it mattered that his brother was deconverting that.
No, that could be true partially, but he initially, I think, because of his brother leaving Christianity and him becoming an atheist, what he cared about most is not feeling stupid. Am I wrong? Like, is my brother right? Am I wrong? He cared about solidifying his current beliefs and not feeling stupid about them. So then he went searching. He went on a search, and wouldn't you believe what he found? He found all these great arguments for God. And it just keeps on going year after year after year. Now we're up to 10,000 arguments for God. Next year it'll be 20,000 arguments for God. It's like he so desperately does not want to feel stupid and be viewed as non-intellectual for believing what he believes. Yet his own scripture says it's foolishness to those who are not already a Christian. So...
do you think he thinks of himself as a decent, like, philosophical heavyweight? Like, that's kind of an impression. Like, it's almost like, I'm on another level, bros. Like, you can't even really talk with me. It's like, you have to have X amount of views. You need to have X number of credentials. And it's like, when I hear him present stuff, it just does not seem to be the way that I hear.
I don't even care about that.
You don't care about that?
No, I don't care about that. Whether he's good at philosophy or not. Doesn't matter to me.
Well, if he's presenting the intellectual side of Christianity, I think it's relevant.
No, to me, the intellectual side of Christianity doesn't exist, and that's what I was talking about Nathan about. I'm not talking about theism, general theism. I'm talking about Christianity. There is no intellectual side of Christianity. It is foolishness by feature. It's not a bug. This craziness of Christianity is what keeps Christianity going and keeps it as a unit where people say, oh, you believe that crazy thing too? Well, so do I. Let's be friends. It's like how flat earthers stay together. So you might make an argument that there's an intellectual side for deism or some general theism using the moral argument or ontological argument. But Christianity, no, by definition, it's nuts.
But in theory, we could have at least evidence for it, right? Because I mean, that's the whole point of your napkin in the name of Jesus, right? That's the whole point.
But that's nuts, right? A water-soaked napkin lighting on fire is nutso, and nobody would believe it unless they see it with their own eyes, and in tested conditions, and knowing they're not being tricked. But this is my point. That's against the laws of nature as we know them today, and it is a miracle. And miracles are just things that will make you go, that's crazy what I just saw. And that's Christianity in a nutshell. It is crazy. But this, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to lower the craziness to make it more malleable or more feasible for people to believe it, because we live in the enlightened age. And I'm saying they're not going to do it. It's impossible unless they start raising people from the dead, walking on water, lighting water-soaked napkins. Same with the Muslims. If you're listening to Muslims, same goes for you. Nobody cares about Muhammad. Nobody cares about your Quran until you can start demonstrating that any of this stuff is true in the first place. I can't emphasize this. Like, people who are not born and raised in Islam, people who are not born and raised in the culture of Christianity, they look at this, they go, what are you even talking about here? What's wrong with you? Like, this is nuts. There. I should be a preacher.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got, it's interesting because I know you said that you used to, I guess, lead some sort of Bible studies. Is that a fair way of presenting it? Or you had some sort of role in?
Yeah, I've led Bible studies. And I think I don't think, I know my wife and I, we were in charge of the Sunday school group for the young kids, but there's no theology there. It's just like basically babysitting. And then I was active on many church bands, worship teams, played saxophone, sang. I did some drama.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you go. I don't know if I'm quite as cynical. Again, but you have more history, I feel like. So you
did I appear cynical just now?
No. About I was talking about going back to Cameron.
Oh, going back to Cameron.
Sorry. Yeah, should have clarified.
Well, no, but I also admitted that he's changed a lot too. Like, I am quite convinced that when I first talked to Cameron, he was a fire and brimstone, eternal conscious torment guy, and I bet you,
he changed on that. Yeah.
I bet you he's not that way anymore. And
he says he's an annihilationist, at least as we. So
okay,
that's definitely interesting. But I don't know. It's good stuff. I'll let you go though. So
okay,
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. And this is why I appreciate, there's a pastor named Matt Walsh. Let's see if I can bring it up. Like, there's a lot of Christian that preaching I just did about that Christianity is nutso by definition. There's Christians who will listen to what I just said and cringe, and then other Christians who are going to say, Doug's spot on. That what we believe is nuts. And if you try to rationalize it and make it seem intellectual and reasonable, you're going to fail, because it's not supposed to be. It's supernatural and amazing. I think it's Matt Walsh. No, that's the conservative guy. Who am I thinking about? What's that pastor's name? Matt Chambers? Chambers? I can't see the live stream chat right now. But he basically gave that long speech about just how crazy Christianity is, and how you look at the book of Revelation and Jesus will come back on a white horse and all that. And he owns it. There's Christians here who own their craziness. There Cam Spires is quoting Cameron Bertuzzi. I know he's your friend, but you're being exploited. Now, when a relative stranger, talks that way to two friends, like, how is this not like old women gossiping in the church type thing idea? So-and-so is just exploiting you. You should really not hang around that person anymore. I think I have that quote to Brent. It was in Facebook Messenger, and those never go away unless you purposely delete them. So be careful what you type in Facebook Messenger. Matt Chandler, thank you, Irish Wisdom Son. Like, I respect Matt Chandler, that type of Christian, more so than those Christians who want to try to make Christianity look reasonable and rational. Let's see if I can find it. I gotta just check the transcript, see if there's the word horse in it. Yeah. Okay, I found it. Matt Chandler, if you ever see this, love you, man. You're more of a true Christian than these flag-waving phonies. Because you get it.
What we believe.
Let's see here. Yeah, about there.
What we believe. It's crazy. Like, if anybody ever says it back to you, you know the Holy Spirit's done a work in your life. Like, if someone says back to you, okay, so let me get this straight. A virgin gave birth to a guy who was God, but only part of God, but still completely God, but man also. Lived perfectly, so they killed him. They buried him, and then he came back to life, and then he floated back into heaven. And then one day, let me make sure I get all this right. One day, he's coming back on a white horse to get us. That's what you believe, partner? And what's our response? Mm-hmm. Me too. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. You want to come? You want to go with me? We're going to meet him in the air.
And the thing is, this pastor is preaching probably in front of hundreds of other Christians, and they're all laughing and agreeing. Yeah, what we believe is nuts. Christians, you need to own your beliefs. You need to stop trying to look smart. You need to stop trying to look reasonable and rational about your core beliefs. Now, I know Christians believe different things, but definitely this type of Christianity that I just played, Matt Chandler types. Like, why do you even try? Because you know it's nuts. It is insane, CM Gold. Now, that doesn't mean it's 100% certainly false. I agree. The universe can be nuts. Quantum is nuts. How a wave acts as a particle is nuts. And yet, at the same time, a wave. I mean, there's some crazy things. I admit it. It's nuts that we even exist. I get that. But within our reality, we don't see the things the Gospels are talking about. We just don't. That's why there's cessationalists around. Now, I know there's the Craig Keeners of the world who write books and just layer claim after claim after claim after claim with hardly any investigation. And there's natural explanations for, I'd say, all of it. Just own that you have crazy beliefs and it takes the Holy Spirit to believe it. Just say that, and then you're done. I understand, Doug, you don't believe a man was God and rose from the dead. I get that, Doug, but I'm praying for you that the Holy Spirit will fill you so he can lead you to the truth. That's what you should say. And then you're done. That's what Trent Horn should say tomorrow. Trent Horn believes that Jesus Christ rose from the dead in bodily form. I don't. You think there's anything he could say to change my mind? No. Do you think there's anything I can say that change his? I actually think there's more hope for that. Because we see so many people who go into seminary. We see so many people who go into history as Christians and then they leave. But it's not the other way around. I can't think of one person who had nothing to do with Christianity, who got a history degree and said, oh, and then read the New Testament and said, oh, wow, I'm a Christian now because of the historical evidence. That doesn't happen. And if it does happen, give me a name, give me an email address, and bring them on. I want to talk to that unicorn. Because that's a unicorn. That's a freak of nature. Peter W. is a Christian, right? I am praying for you, Doug. Well, there you go. See, that's what the Christian should say. But you got to be more specific. I'm praying for you that you'll receive the Holy Spirit regenerated through God's power so you can come to believe that this is true. But as the previous caller pointed out, you basically have to become desperate at that point. CM Gold asks, your wife seems to think you can change your mind. Yeah, I think so. I think she's appealing to emotion there, that it hurts her not to spend eternity with me. I would not want anyone on planet Earth to spend eternity with me. Why is that even appealing? Why would anyone, there's no one on the live stream chat who would want to spend eternity with me. If you do, you're nuts. I don't want to spend eternity with anyone here. Because eternity is a pretty long time. I tell you, non-existence after living for 1 billion years is probably so refreshing. I don't know why I'm so weird here, but aren't there more people out there like me who thinks non-existence is way more refreshing than living forever and ever and ever? Oh.
Hey, Doug.
Kevin.
How are you?
Good. My favorite Christian. Or, no, my second favorite Christian. I got to put my wife there because.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, obvious reasons.
I just got off work, so I just saw that you were online, and so I was like, oh, I got a few extra things that I guess to update on my deconstruction journey. Hopefully things are going well for you today. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, yeah, we've been talking about a lot of deep stuff, and I was just saying that Christians need to own their crazy beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Like to try to say a man rising from the dead after being dead for 3 days and walking on water, like just admit that this is crazy, that you still believe it's true, but to understand that it should not be a shock or surprising that people don't believe it. And so to try to make it sound reasonable or rational or intellectual, you're running on a treadmill. You're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I get that point. Anyways, one thing I did want to update on our last interview when I was listening to it was you asked me earlier in that interview, like, Kevin, if 2 years ago you had a really close friend ask you or claim, hey, someone rose from the dead, Kevin, after we prayed in the name of Jesus. You asked me if I would believe that. And I said to you, no, I wouldn't. And as I think more on that, that's actually not the case. I think the best one thing to clarify is, a couple of years ago, my gullibility was pretty high. And then as you go further and further back in my life, it scales way up, right?
So your gullibility is going down, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's gone way down since then. Yeah. So, and then I haven't really, I'm listening to our conversation, but I haven't been taking your advice on the whole Plantinga kind of guy. So I'm still working things through in my deconstruction. So it's not that I just letting you know on that. So I'm just kind of studying slavery right now on the topic of that and where I stand, because it's like, I don't know. I know you like to go into the piercing questions of these where it's like, Kevin, let's just get to the root of all this. And I'm like, I need to go through these intricate things here because it's gonna help me. I'm convinced of that, right?
Yeah, I want you to sit on a blimp. I want to be in a hot air balloon with you, overlooking a beautiful forest. Mm-hmm. But you want to crash that balloon and start looking at individual trees.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at these little things here and just trying to figure out where do I stand on some of this stuff. And it's giving me like some confidence. Like if I talk to a Christian saying, "Oh yeah, the Bible's perfectly inerrant, perfectly this, perfectly that," I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, what about these manuscripts that contradict with what some of our latest text of the Bible?" It gives me that confidence to be like, anyways. One thing I don't want to take up too much of your time though. One point that I just kind of was thinking of, and I wanted to run this by you and get your thoughts on. I was listening to your conversation you had a while ago with Jonathan McClatchy.
Oh yeah, that was years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That was very, very interesting. I did not think a guy like that could exist, assuming he's not deluding himself and being intellectually honest with himself. And just to break it down, the idea that you can have someone that's a Calvinist, a sensationalist, and has his PhD in biology and not convinced that we have a common ancestor with another animal, that to me is like the iron gridlock faith. Like very few, assuming he's actually trying to pursue truth and actually trying to follow evidence, very few things will ever get that guy to like.
I'm not sure if he's changed, but he might have changed his position and become a theistic type evolutionist, but I'm not sure.
Okay. But my main thing that I wanted to touch up with was he made this case where, oh yeah, like the evidence is solid for this to believe against any other religion. And he uses that passage of Luke where, assuming like that parable where the rich guy goes to hell and the poor guy goes to heaven, and says, like when the rich guy asks like Abraham or whatever in heaven, "Hey, can I go to my communities on earth and tell them this place is bad?" And Abraham's like, "Oh, there's not, that wouldn't convince anyone. Like there's no, if they can't be convinced by the scriptures, then they're not going to be convinced at all."
Yeah.
So that's
a flat out lie.
Well, it's like, I think of Paul, right? You have a guy who knows the Old Testament inside and out. He claims to be a Pharisee of a Pharisee. This guy believed everything in the Old Testament and did not be persuaded by the coming of Jesus. But then when he had this divine encounter, he was going to Damascus ready to kill Christians, and then he has this divine experience from Jesus, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, yeah, this is true now. I was wrong.
Well, technically, we don't even know that because you know where that's found, right? That's found in Acts. Paul never actually talks about a Damascus road, does he?
No, but like John McClatchy assumes that Luke and Acts are both authored from Luke, and those are, I'm talking from John's perspective.
Yeah.
He co-signs with the idea that, oh yeah, these are the same authors, right? But the author of Luke is contradicting, assuming what he has about Paul is correct, is contradicting what Paul's experience is like.
Well, I can do one better than that.
Yeah.
You want to see a friction in the Bible on that topic? Lazarus and Luke. Do you know there's a Lazarus in John? Jesus
rose from the dead.
Yeah, that's a different Lazarus, right? The first Lazarus is basically a character in Luke in a parable, but in John it's supposedly a real guy who died and Jesus rose from the dead. So some scholars think that the author of John disagreed with the author of Luke and said, well, wait a minute. If you're saying that scriptures alone is good enough and we don't need someone coming back from heaven or hell to warn people, well, then what use is Jesus appearing to the women and the disciples and the miracles? Like all that was used to show his divine authority. Like he calmed the winds. So the author of John said, Luke, you screwed up here. So let me push back a little bit. So he comes up with, I think it's a character. He comes up with a character with the same name, named Lazarus. And in that narrative, it says that hard-hearted Jews, some of them, came to saving faith because of that miracle that Lazarus came back from the dead. So in Luke, Lazarus comes back from the dead, and nobody, like, doesn't help anything, and you should not even ask for it. In John, Jesus did that purposely so that some would believe. They're they're butting heads, and they're using the same character name and to make opposite points.
Well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is when you talk to different people about this, there's so many angles that I hear people just poking at this whole structure of the religion of Christianity. And so it's like, I got to think more on that. So question for you. I subscribe to Markan priority theory, the case where, Mark was written first. Well, I lightly, right? I'd say that's the most probable based on the theories of the scholars, where it's like you got the Q source and all that. And my understanding with the Markan priority theory is that John, where do you stand on that? Because did John have these other gospels as a reference when constructing his own gospel, would you say, too?
I think he definitely yeah. Short answer, yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely different than the synoptics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely,
but it's the latest too. And the whole thing, like, John was supposed to be the one that wouldn't die or something like that, and so that's why people think John wrote it. But it's pretty obvious to me the disciple John never wrote John. The disciple Matthew never wrote Matthew. And whether John Mark actually wrote John Mark, it's irrelevant to me. But I tell you, if you take the traditional authorship, everybody knew everybody.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that's another thing I have to get back into, is the authorship on where I stand on all that stuff. And I guess another point to add too is, like, I remember that guy Caleb you had on, who really likes to go into the miracles. I don't know if he mentioned it in your stream or if I saw it in another video. He said there was like a Hindu tribe, right, where a daughter of the tribe passed away, and then a Christian prayed in the name of Jesus, and she came back to life or whatever, and then all of a sudden the whole tribe came to Christ. Now, regardless of, we obviously have no way to vet if that happened, right? We had none of the plugins with this person where they were medically dead. But if we assume this is true, again, this contradicts what the author of Luke is claiming, where you have a whole tribe who gave their life to Christ based on this miraculous.
That's a great point. If you take what Luke said about that parable, then Craig Keener should not have written his book about miracles.
Who's that guy?
Oh, sorry. You don't know Craig Keener?
No. Dude, I'm so behind on some of this.
That's stuff. Right. No, I didn't mean. I actually caught for different reasons. But
no worries.
Craig Keener is a guy who's written a thick book about miracles in Christianity. And I agree with you. If you take the Lazarus parable at face value, Craig Keener should have said, well, yeah, I could write this book on miracles, but we don't need it. We got the scriptures.
Yeah. And again, like, compare it to any other religion, man, and it's like, that's like one of the hard ones, because I used to hinge on the whole, you just got to have faith, man. You just got to have faith. If you just have faith, everything's going to work out. And I always hinged on that my whole life. And then when you bring up the whole point of, you compare that to any other religion, and they're all saying that's like that's stuff I'm working through. Anyways, that's kind of all I wanted to add in there. If you want to ask me anything. Oh, wait, no. Hang on. I actually want to say this. I was laughing so hard when I first heard your conversation with Jim Bob. And you're like, hey, let's go to the desert or whatever, and like set this like place of firewood together and get the Christians to pray. And I just imagining you with this headset, and you got a mic, and you got two TV cameras right next to you. You're like, because we need two cameras here. We got to make sure we got this. And you got a clipboard, and you go to the Christians. All right, Christians, here we're going to do. You guys are going to pray that God lights this firewood on fire, and we're going to have trucks dumping water every 3 hours because, the sun's going to evaporate, and we got to make sure this is a solid miracle. And if at any point in time you Christians want to sit down and talk with me about what's going on here, I'm right here. I don't know. I just had that funny image in my head where you're like, and let's see if we get some fire coming out of nowhere. So.
If you want to stay a Christian, my advice to you would be to focus on the beautiful things on planet Earth and attribute God to those beautiful things, because I think that will help you emotionally attach to your creator and say that he's the source of this, because you have to admit that this world sucks. There's so much war and it's throughout history, and famine and death and destruction, but you will see these amazing, beautiful things when you go hiking, or child prodigies singing beautiful songs, and it will make you really resonate with God if you do that. Now, I don't believe your God exists, but from your perspective, if I was a Christian, that's all I would do. That will keep you in.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I'm just like, where I'm at right now is trying, I'll, you know, if it's just so everyone knows, like, I acknowledge I'm a Christian only because I was born into it, and I don't have a good reason for it, just to be clear for everyone. That's where I'm at, and I'm trying to see if there is actually any good reason to hold on to it. And it's like, I don't know if I can be the person that tries to find an excuse to believe, and if I can't find a reason to believe, then, well, we'll just, like, I guess, like, another thing too is, like, I'm not mad at anyone in this too. I'm not mad at, like, some of the disinformation I got. It's just, I was a part of the delusioning of myself. I wanted this to be true. It's a beautiful, like, I still think it's a cool story, but if I'm not convinced it's true, it doesn't mean anything. So anyways.
But take my advice. If you want to stay a Christian, don't look at nature and avoid the Bible.
When you say, sorry, say that, what do you mean by that? Break that down.
If you want to stay a Christian, you got to stop looking into the Bible.
I'm not trying to stay a Christian, though. I want to see if I can find a reason.
But I want you to stay a Christian, because then I can say I have at least one Christian coming to poker night. So what do I have to do to keep you in Christianity today?
Trust me, I'm going to hold on as hard as I possibly can. This is not over yet. You'll definitely hear more things that, more drastic steps that are not harming to anyone, that I take to try to see if I can verify this. So,
okay, fair enough.
Anyways, it's kind of the update there that I have. If you've got any other final words, that's pretty much all I want.
No, I just wish, I know you're teetering right now, but I wish more Christians were like you. The honesty, the straightforwardness, you're saying I'm still a Christian, but you're saying you're taking, I don't believe in a soul, but you're taking your soul and you're laying it out for everyone to see and saying, this is what I'm struggling with. And I commend you for that.
And it's really hard too, because, like, I'm literally, like, cards on the table, ask me any questions you want to, like, some of my friends. And I'll admit, there's some friends that their conversations are getting heated, and I kind of, like, hold back on some of the conversations with people, because it's like, it's getting to the point now where I'm listening to sermons. Like, when I was listening to Sean McDowell, and it was very surprising to me. Not that Sean McDowell is the most amazing, like, whatever he says is gospel, but he brought up this point where, if you have this, he says there's nowhere in the Bible where if you get this euphoric feeling that's God speaking to you. And that to me was really problematic, because I have several experiences where I thought God was speaking to me, like where I go to someone in the church and I'm like, oh, I feel like God's giving me this vision for you. And they say, yes, that's the Holy Spirit, Kevin. And that was my confirmation there. And then to hear Sean McDowell say, we don't have anywhere in the Bible that says this. It was an audible, we have documented instances where Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit speak audibly to the disciples and Paul. And it wasn't this, I think this is God, or maybe this is God. It was, you knew, and you either followed through according to the Bible or you did not. And man, that is really hard to swallow, especially hearing from a guy like Sean McDowell say that, because that makes the argument of divine hiddenness a lot stronger for me. So,
well, keep watching my show, and that will strengthen your faith, and avoid those apologists.
Well, again, like, I'm still, like, it's getting to the point now where I listen to other sermons and I'm like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense because of this. This doesn't make sense because of that. This doesn't make sense because of this. Or I agree with you on this, but that doesn't mean it's true or whatever. Anyways, well,
Good luck on your journey, and
Thank you.
we'll see you in 48 hours.
Yeah, I missed the last poker night. The Lord did not. It was not the right time. I had other events to take care of, but hopefully the Lord
Actually,
allows it.
No, I want to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow when I debate Trent Horn on Nathan's channel, I want you there because you'll be the only Christian who actually likes me.
Wait, is that like is that like
a real debate
that they give? No, but like, do they say, "Oh, Doug, you don't have any Christians that like you, so you're wrong"?
Well, no, they don't say that, but I get the impression that a lot of Catholics don't like me. Brent likes me here; he's Catholic, but it's like, yeah, I need to be demolished.
What time is the debate starting?
2 Mountain. 1
1
p.m.
I work till like 2:30 p.m. Mountain, so
just ask your boss if you can leave early. No, I'm kidding.
All right, I'll try to watch the recap.
Or have your boss and everyone you work with come watch with you. I mean, at the same time, put it on the big screen.
Dude, here's the thing. A lot of people, I've shared this with a lot of guys at work. There's one guy I think he's like a progressive Christian. I haven't shared with him my journey yet. I'm getting ready to, but like I don't know. Like, we'll see. Like, you're killing me. Okay, I'll let you go. All right.
Okay, take care.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
What do we got here? I got Danny and Pooja. Danny was here first, but I've talked to him many times. Pooja, I don't think I've ever talked to, but I'll let Danny in for a little bit.
Danny and Pooja. Danny was here first.
Very brief. Did you see Rebecca's cute little thing that she did of you?
Oh yeah, she made me like the Batman.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself for a second. Yeah. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And then I guess to I don't want to be here for just 5 seconds, but a quick question. What would you think if all of the historical events of the Old and New Testament were verified, except that we did not verify the miracles? What would that do to your credence levels?
Nothing.
Okay, that's it. That's it for me. I just making sure she worked 30 minutes on that. So
you're saying like if Moses really exists, was a real figure in history, Abraham.
Yeah.
And the Genesis 1 would be a little tough though. Like a real Adam and Eve. Are you going that far?
Well,
is that a miracle?
Yeah, I guess like the historical events that I guess maybe after creation, I guess. Like, I'm talking about all the kings and queens and the judges and all those because apparently Dr. Bowen says the farther you get back to Genesis, well, what would you expect to get less accurate it gets? And so that's what we see. But imagine if all of that stuff was accurate. But anyways, yeah, I don't think it but I guess with respect to most people would be kind of bothered though. I guess it's surprising that you wouldn't be bothered that all of the stuff was completely accurate.
The thing is, the core of Christianity is not real people in real places. The core of Christianity is what one particular person did in history. I mean, that's it.
It's the miracles.
Yeah, it's the miracle that God came as flesh and that God died and God rose again.
Yeah. And to the last conversation I was hearing, I think one of the strongest devices that really keep people in Christianity, as well as maybe even bring people to Christianity, is the Holy Spirit device. But I don't understand why Sean McDowell, is it McDowell, right?
Yeah.
If he concedes that that a feeling can't get you to verify your faith or anything like that, then I don't even know how. What else do you appeal to know that you have the Holy Spirit? There can't be a reason. So I wonder what he would say to that. Do you know?
But he would appeal to the scriptures. He would appeal to the veracity of the text. We know that the Holy Spirit's in us and we have a relationship because the text says so.
Yeah, but in terms of like, you could accept Christianity but not know whether you're saved. I guess what would he do for those people? You could. Okay, the scripture says only those that are saved, only ones that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Then he would appeal to the scriptures and say it's by the fruits that that we know that we can know that we have eternal life. So if you're living a life of picking up your cross and following Jesus, saying no to the natural man and saying yes to, like it says in the text, that those who love me keep my commandments. So if you're living a life like you do, Danny, you know you're not a Christian.
Mm. Yeah, I've had a few Christians talk to me and say they were bothered by the fact that I quote unquote act Christian. Like I try not to curse. I sometimes do, but I did stuff like being nice.
Yeah,
like it actually bothers them. They're like, because then they have trouble. Yeah. How do you? They almost want you to like be mean.
When I started out doing strict street epistemology, people got mad at me. He's pretending to be nice.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not really nice. And so
I get that, yeah.
The thing is, I don't feel I've changed that much, but the only thing I've changed is like all my cards are now on the table. Like, nothing's hidden. Mm-hmm. And if you want to believe I'm under the power of Satan, then I'll say what you want me to say. Actually, Christians do believe that. It's in their holy text.
Yeah, definitely played into my deconversion. I had a lot of nice atheists around me.
Yeah.
And they even though I had wacky beliefs, they stopped bringing it up. They stopped caring that I had wacky beliefs. They kind of loved me as I was, and I was just that definitely had a huge role. I think that's much more powerful. Like I was talking to Rebecca, and I told her, you're much more likely to bring me back to Christianity than any of these apologists. Just not I guess not just that love. That you can tell that she loves people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the best tool for bringing people into certain belief systems. But anyways.
What's that song? What's love got to do? Who sings that? Is that Whitney Houston? I think it is.
That sounds like someone past my time, or before my time.
The thing is, like, Mormons are one of the most loving people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And, would you and
that bothered me when I was a Christian, though. That really did bother me. And then I had to like reconcile it. Oh, well, that's because they're works-based. And then in turn, I was like, well, that's weird that faith-based systems, then you get, really, I don't know, I don't want to spell out names, but those the people that will not be named on YouTube, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I wanted.
Tina Turner, thank you, Maverick Christian. It wasn't Whitney Houston. Tina Turner sang that song. And then think of Tom Cruise. He's a Scientologist. That's almost as nutty as Christianity. And I bet you if you and I were in the presence of Tom Cruise with that smile, he would melt our hearts and we'd be Scientologists by the end of the evening.
Yeah, I feel like that's the strongest driving force. It's just belonging and people treating you in a certain way. Because I think that, I don't want to say I left. I think the rational reasons, like the philosophy and stuff, might have just helped me feel better after I transitioned. But it was really changed. You gave some advice on how to convert to Christianity or become a Christian. Here's my advice: the fastest way to lose your Christianity is stop going to church, stop belonging, in that kind of community. Surround yourself with really nice non-Christians, and within years, you're
that's what I said to what's his name, Braxton Hunter. Give him $10 million and move him to Denmark, and then he'll leave Christianity. Yeah, it's just like take all the neediness for community and whatever away. Is just be dead inside, and so all your neediness is gone, and be secure, and then
Okay, I gotta take my leave. Thanks for having me.
Yep, see ya.
Bye.
Fluffy and Mountain Show. Who was here first? I don't recognize Fluffy. I recognize Mountain Show.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Fluffy.
Hi, how are you, PineCreek?
I'd say I'm 9.2.
Nice.
Are you Italian?
Yes, you asked me the other time. Maybe you don't remember me. You probably speak with a lot of people.
Yeah, I do speak with a lot of people, but Myron, he records a ledger of who comes on, so I'll look you up later.
Yeah, we had a discussion about, maybe it brings it up to your memory, about if I was an atheist or an agnostic.
Okay.
But that's maybe for another time if you want to resume it.
Oh yeah, and I told you that you're an atheist.
Yes, correct.
I told you to embrace the truth and stop suppressing the truth in unrighteousness or something like that.
Yes, correct.
So did you do that? Are you now an atheist?
Well, I mean, I'm by definition an atheist, absolutely. But agnostic describe my position more precisely, I would say.
Okay.
But that's not what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I noticed that for whatever reason, Christians seems to be very fond, very interested in particular about the resurrection of Jesus.
They should be, yeah, because that's the core.
Yeah, but I don't see why.
Why? Oh, I can help you with that. Because it's through Jesus's death and resurrection that the sins can be atoned for. Now, Christians disagree exactly what that means and how it exactly works, but that's the root of it. So in order to go to heaven, since God is all just, he can't just say, oh, your sins, I'll just ignore those. No. He has to either pay for them or atone for them in some way. And so he used the Old Testament template of sacrificing animals, but you got to keep doing that over and over again. So we got now a perfect man who's now a perfect God who's sinless, and therefore his sacrifice paid for the sins of everyone. Although that doesn't mean you automatically go to heaven. You still got to accept the gift, depending on if you're a Calvinist or not or whatever. So, but that's why Jesus is so important.
No, okay, but that's about if that's the case, that's about him dying, not resurrecting.
Good catch. So then the question is, why did he have to rise? So some Christians would say that he had to rise to demonstrate or prove that he is God, because he, number one, predicted his death according to the Gospels and predicted he would rise again. And so therefore he had to rise to make his prediction come true. That's a very simple answer. But another answer would be that he had to rise again to show that he conquered death, that he has victory over death, that death is not an issue for him.
Yeah, but you see, that's funny because I can see, like in hypothetical, I can see him resurrecting and not being anything related to any god.
Well, there are Unitarians on the planet who are Christian who say that Jesus wasn't God, but the resurrection was still necessary and sufficient to pay for the sins.
I mean like not connected at all.
Oh,
we have for example, it's not a very known thing, but for example, we have not a condition, but like I don't remember how's the term in English. It's called Lazarus syndrome.
Lazarus syndrome?
Yes, exactly. Something like that. And it's basically in medical after an attempt to CPR the person, where they get basically declared dead, and for whatever reason the heart restarts, and we have like 40 or 50 proven cases from the 80s up to now.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, but this is a different situation. Like Jesus was dead for, according to the text, for at least 36 hours. I don't think we have any recorded cases of someone being both brain dead, heart dead for 36 hours and coming back.
That's correct, but you have to remember that we are speaking about 2,000 years ago, so we don't have any, ECG, we don't have any electroencephalogram. I mean, they could be in thanatos, for example, apparent death, and they wouldn't have.
Okay, yeah, but this But this is like, you're basically saying it's possible, right? Naturalistically.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not
anything's
a proof
possible
that,
that's not logically contradictory. So to me, this type of argument is useless. I mean, either Jesus rose from the dead or not, and if he did rise from the dead after 36 hours, and if he was dead, then I'm an atheist, but I'll grant that's a miracle. I just don't think it happened. I'm not gonna be the atheist who's gonna say, well, maybe 2,000 years ago they had a certain herb that they stuck up someone's nose and they came back to life. I'm not gonna go there. Like,
no, but that's not my argument either. What I'm saying is that even if somehow someone was proven that he was dead and he was resurrected, that will not be to me suffice to say, therefore there's a God.
Okay.
That's why I don't understand why they are so focused on this specific point, while it's possible, but even if it's granted.
I understand what you're saying, but the thing is, it's similar to my wet water soaked napkin, right? And I've gotten this criticism too. Like, I often say, here's a napkin, I'm soaking it in water, pray to Jesus, pray in the name of Jesus to light this on fire, and let's say it does. Now, a guy like you would come along and say, well, that doesn't prove God did it.
No, exactly.
You're right. You're exactly right. However, the thing is, if we could do that, maybe not every time, but every 3 months, and when we pray to, let's say, Zeus, it never works. When we pray to Allah, it never works. When we pray to Vishnu, it never works. But it seems like every 3 months or so, when we ask Yahweh or Jesus to do it, then it works. And we cannot figure out any naturalistic explanation for it. Water doesn't burn, pure water. So what's going on here? The best explanation I will grant is maybe this God exists and does have something to do with it.
Okay,
but it does not. It doesn't prove certainty, though. You're right. It doesn't prove it's certain.
My best explanation would always be a naturalistic one, like maybe it's time to check in with a psychiatrist because I'm imagining this thing. Than a supernatural being exists.
No. See, you can, when you have tested conditions where you have different biases in a room and it's not just one person, then this falls by the wayside.
What about group psychosis?
Again, in tested situations, and if you repeat it every 3 months or so,
okay.
Yeah. So basically, if you have people of different biases in different cultures, and you test them that they're not mentally insane, that they're not on drugs, that they're not grieving, and it's just like normal people, and they see a water-soaked napkin light on fire in the name of Jesus. Sure, that doesn't prove 100%, but I tell you, in my books, I'm going to believe something's going on here, and it is related to whatever name they invoked. Now, a lot of atheists disagree with me on this one, but I'm not stubborn like those stubborn atheists are. I am open to the evidence. I am open that there's a God out there who can do stuff like this. I just don't think it will ever happen. But we can test it and see if I'm right.
How would you account for a magician that is basically?
Do you know what tested conditions means?
Yeah, I know, but
that means we're not trying to trick each other. In fact, we're doing the opposite. We're trying to put things in place that trickery is next to impossible. So in tested conditions, it's the opposite of magic. It's the opposite of Penn and Teller.
No, I agree with that. But do you agree that the idea that our basically safeguards around the testing condition were somehow breached is more likely than a supernatural being exists?
No, I would still say that you can have testing conditions, and especially if you do it every 3 months or so, just to confirm it. Doesn't have to be repeatable every time, but I still think that it would be reasonable to say that the laws of nature were broken or intervened and suspended in some way. Yeah. And if it only works under the pleading of one deity over another, I do think it's very reasonable to say maybe there's something going on here.
And does it needs to keep happening? Like if it
I already said this
for,
every 3 months or so. It doesn't have to happen every time. Are you listening, Fluffy?
No, I mean every 3 months forever, or is that every 3 months for 10 years and then it can stop? It's okay.
Well, for the current generation, I think a few times would suffice. But I think for future generations, if there's a God who cares to be known, he would do it for every generation. In other words,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So if there's miracles in the Bible that are actually true, why do they get to see it, not us?
Yeah, in regards of miracle, about Lazarus, since we called about him before, and the syndrome is called about him, it made me think, and I want to know your opinion about that, or if I'm misthinking.
Opinion about what? This is the last thing. I got other callers. What did you want my opinion on?
Yes, on Lazarus.
Which one? The one in Luke or the one in John?
The one that resurrected. I'm not that well.
Oh, that's the one in John. Okay. What about him?
Yeah. How do you think Christians reconcile the idea that Lazarus resurrected? There are people around this event, but somehow there was not, a huge amount of people lining up to have sons, fathers, brides, whatever, family being resurrected too.
How do I don't think I understand your question. Try again.
Yeah. Suppose that Lazarus really resurrected, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would see, if it happens, a huge amount of people lining up to have his son, his or her father, mother, whatever resurrected too. So I would expect a huge line in the front of the house of Jesus of people asking to have someone resurrected.
That could happen. I don't know.
Yeah, how do people reconcile it with the fact that it didn't happen?
How do I sorry, Fluffy, we're not communicating. I don't know. It's because you don't have English as a first language, but I don't understand what you're saying. And I'm getting tired and I don't want to even try. So,
okay.
Take care. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, how do people reconcile?
Maybe someone else can explain to me what he was trying to say and then I'll answer. Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Can I show your face?
Sure.
What do you want to say?
Yeah. Well, I guess regarding the thing that was just being discussed, I kind of agree with you. If there was some miracle every year or so where, people could regularly test it and systematically rule out alternative. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm not talking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, people could systematically rule out different options. I feel like that would be pretty convincing. Water soaked napkin. I mean, you could do the resurrection every year. Evidently, the Paschal lamb or whatever, that used to be yearly. So why can't you do it?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Well, there is a verse in the New Testament that says that Jesus can't resurrect again because you'll be, how did they phrase it? You'll be crucifying Jesus again, which is bad, I guess. So don't expect it to happen again.
I think the theologians could figure out a way around that. They could, Thomas Aquinas wouldn't be an atheist or something like that if
But you don't need Jesus' resurrection. you could just every 3 months, just go to a graveside ahead of time. We know that God's going to act in this way through a prophet or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering though, so are you thinking about trying to do the Flying Man tomorrow with Trent Horn?
I haven't decided yet. I'm actually going to seriously just let my brain go. Just do.
Oh, okay. All right.
So whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you do end up trying that, then I think you received like similar feedback, but maybe you should like sort of just say where it's going or something, like say, eventually we'll get to all of the evidence, but I'm going to lay it out one by one, starting from most mundane to least or something.
I usually do that, but I have to say it like 5 times, I guess, in order for it to sink in.
Maybe get a T-shirt.
If I do the flying man with Trent, it's not going to be with Trent. It's going to be with the live stream chat listening,
Sure.
and say I don't care if Trent's listening to me right now or not. I'm imagine if you will, and then set it up properly, and then basically I can predict exactly what they're thinking before they think it, and they're going to find themselves thinking those thoughts. No, I don't want to think those thoughts because PineCreek predicted I will, so I got to stop it. And then they're going to just go nuts. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But Irish with some sun says the previous caller was saying, how come the Gospels don't record people asking Jesus to raise their loved ones too after he raises Lazarus? Well, there are some segments in the Gospels where people come up to him and ask for him to heal. I don't know. To me, I think that's a silly question if that's what he's asking. And what is it trying to demonstrate? I don't know. I believe most of this is a story. Like there's people that the Gospel of John says that Jesus did so many things that there wouldn't be enough books in the world to hold all the miracles he did. So a Christian will just very easily appeal to that. That they can't record everything. So, anything else you want to say to me? What's your name?
No. Dan. I couldn't figure out how to get it not to say guest. I'll figure that out next time if I call.
Okay, Dan. Yeah. Okay. Do you think I should do the flying man tomorrow with Trent?
If it comes up, I feel like Trent's a little bit sharper than a lot of apologists.
Well, he's going to know that I do that, and I'm sure. Like I wanted when he said, "Debate me, bro." I said, "Okay, let's go within 48 hours." But no, let's wait a couple weeks. So I'm sure he's dug up some dirt on me.
Sure.
And knows that I do the flying man.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Yeah.
Hey, Mountain Show.
Hey, what's up, Pastor Doug?
I'm getting tired, so let's keep it short, and you'll be my last caller.
Okay. Just wanted to real quick on ahead of the debate tomorrow. Mm-hmm. The resurrection, when they come up to you and they say, "Hey, Jesus died for your sins," that's a part 2 in a series, like a story.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to talk about that.
Oh, it's not going to be about the resurrection, or
it's going to be whether or not why I believe Jesus did not rise bodily and why he believes he did. Okay. Whether we get into what that really means, I don't know.
Okay. Now I was just going to say we have minimal facts for that because Blabbermast has already given us the what has been done for that. But on the part 1 side, though, right? The reason why he had to come. Do we have minimal facts for that?
On why he had to come and save us from? Yeah, no.
Right.
We don't. And if Cam Spires is still here, he'll smile when I say this because it was his idea. We don't have minimal facts on how Jesus left the earth either.
Correct. But on the part 1 side, do we have the minimal facts for the trees that were there, the Adam and Eve and their footprints and the snake, all that kind of stuff? Because the story goes that the reason why they were I guess people had to die is because they ate a kumquat from one of the trees, right?
Kumquat, yeah.
Okay, so
but that's just fantasy, though. William Lane Craig's that didn't happen.
Well, but the thing is, though, Jesus could have resurrected five ways from Sunday, somersaulted out of the tomb, and and it would have been for nothing if the part 1 didn't exist, right? I mean, am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing something. If we were all sinless, then we wouldn't need Jesus.
Okay, and then the reason why we die is because they ate the fruit from the tree of the thing, right? Is that
or that we just somehow sin entered the world? Yeah.
Okay, because I was reading Genesis 3, and it seems like the plan was already to have people be dead because they didn't eat that second tree, which was the tree of life. Genesis 3, 19, 20, 22.
Yeah, didn't God put an angel in front of it with a sword?
Well, it says here, and God said, now that humankind has become like any of us, knowing good and bad, because they've already eaten the tree, the one fruit?
Yeah.
What if one should stretch out a hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever? And so then God cast them out from the garden so they wouldn't eat the second tree of life.
Yeah.
So that means the plan was already that there was nothing. The part one collapses. That's what, unless I'm missing something.
No. The part one was that sin entered the world, and part two is that Jesus had to atone for it.
Right, but how did the sin enter in the part one?
Oh, a lot of Christians would admit it doesn't even matter.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, if it doesn't,
yeah, because if you're a theistic Christian, like William Lane Craig seems to be now, then you'll just say, I don't know, but somehow whether sin entered, what particular point within the 20,000 population of Homo sapiens that first came, how did God somehow infuse sin, or the sinful nature was allowed for a certain pair? Who knows? They'll just say it's mystery.
Okay, gotcha. All right. I just wanted to see if it was tied specifically to the event of them eating the tree or the fruit from the tree, and that was the reason why they got kicked out.
Well, yeah, if you're a very conservative Christian, they'll say, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, all right. Well, good luck on that debate tomorrow.
You're exactly right in the major point you're making about that there's so many things in the story that minimal facts are not talked about because historians don't agree on these things, that they actually happened in the past. And yet this is why there's Christians who push back on the minimal facts argument, because they realize that what you're saying is true, that you can't separate things. You can't just boil it down to a few things because everything's interrelated and connected in some way. And my guess is with Trent Horn, he knows this, and he's not, if he brings up Habermas and minimal facts tomorrow, oh man, I'm going to be happy.
well, exactly, because the thing is, it's like you can find 50,000 things for the minimal facts that Jesus did the tomb and Joseph of Nicodemus did this and all this other stuff. But the thing is, it's like, wait a minute, if that first, are you telling me that the Adam and Eve story is real? Because if that's all bunk, then what's the point of the whole Jesus thing? Then I don't have any, like, where's the minimal facts for the first part? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because if that's not real, then who cares?
But getting back to what Cam Spires was saying is that why don't we have records of Jesus doing stuff when he was 50 years old? How would you answer that?
If I was to look at it chronologically, he died at 33.
Mm-hmm.
So he died earlier than the age of 50.
Mm-hmm. Well, he died, but he rose again, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah, but was it? But according to the text, though, wasn't he here for like 6 weeks or something?
Yeah, and then what happened?
And then then he ascended, like rose like a spaceship to the heaven.
Don't mock.
No, but he ascended into heaven. Now, whether he moved like a spirit in heaven, still containing the fish that he ate.
I love your I love your camera work. You actually raised it as you were talking about heaven.
Oh, did I? I didn't even mean to do that.
Yeah, no, you did.
He digested the fish in his stomach to prove that he was a bodily thing, but he probably didn't defecate the fish. He probably kept it as
right.
A spirit.
But the point is, he died, rose again, was on Earth for a little time, and then rose into the heavens and was gone. Right. That's the point.
Correct. Went into orbit. Right.
And so now we got a question here. What is more likely? What's the better explanation? The reason why we don't have documents talking about what Jesus did when he was 50 is either A, because he never rose again in the first place, or B, because he floated into the clouds and disappeared before he turned 50.
Right, exactly.
And the thing is, any rational, normal human being without neediness is going to say, probably didn't rise again.
You could do this 100 different ways. I think I'm a big fan of history. I'm a big fan of the Roman Empire. I just love them. If you look back, there was a big during that time when Jesus was still on Earth, supposedly he must have been about 9 or 14. There was a battle called the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. This is where the Romans tried to conquer Germany. The big famous Arminius story, all that kind of stuff. Now you think about this happened in the year 9 specifically.
Where are we going with this? I'm tired, so just get to the point.
Point is that if if Jesus is a guy that can sit there and like, bring people back from the dead and heal people and things like that, don't you think that the Romans would have used him to help conquer, right? Like, honestly, like it's like, oh no, we're just gonna kill this guy because he can provide food on a whim. He can, he can heal people, heal our soldiers, but we'll just kill him because he rode in on a donkey.
Instead of Captain America, you'd been Captain Israel, and conquered all.
And don't you think the Jews could have used him to overthrow the Romans?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Why didn't he?
Why didn't they just say like, "Hey, help us, Jesus! Get rid of these Romans. You can do all these amazing things. You can calm a storm."
Mountain Show, you're describing what Jews were expecting. The Messiah was supposed to be a warrior Messiah,
right? But instead, they just want to kill him.
Yeah. So what some Jews had to do is, because since they realized that Jesus didn't have any power, couldn't overthrow governments, his face couldn't be put on a coin, they had to change the narrative to, some Jews expected the Messiah to be this way, but really the Messiah was about a different kingdom. Not the kingdom here on earth necessarily, but a heavenly kingdom that's in your soul and in your heart. And also it's about love and pacifism and turning the other cheek, so they had to change the narrative. But anyhow, thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, man. Good luck on the thing tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Cool. Now, I didn't want to bring in anybody else, but this guy has a really nice shirt on.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I was playing the thing, so I'm sorry if you heard.
No, I didn't hear anything. You did well.
Oh, okay, good. I was quick.
I let you on because of your shirt. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I just woke up. I just had a question. I'm an atheist.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding.
Why are you sorry?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. That's like a typical response. No, I get it. And I just kind of, because you're really educated, in my opinion, when it comes to like theology and stuff like that. And I'm
an expert in theology. Yep.
Expert. Yeah. Yeah. And sorry if I sound nervous.
No, that's all right. Relax. It's fine.
And so I was like looking, because the guy previous to me was talking about the Genesis account.
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as I'm pretty sure it says they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yeah.
And so prior to that, they didn't know what good and evil was.
Oh, you're finding a plot hole here, Juan.
Yeah, so why would God get mad at them if they didn't even know it was wrong to not listen to God, because they didn't have that knowledge, right?
Checkmate, theists. Checkmate, Jews. Checkmate, Christians.
Have you ever dealt with that question from a theist? Have you heard rebuttals for that?
I'll be honest with you. When I was a Christian, I didn't have a good answer to that, and I know from talking to Christians even today, they struggle with that. Because how can you hold someone accountable for evil and good when they have no knowledge of evil and good? So they either have to say that, well, they kind of already did, but not fully. And God did give them a commandment not to eat of the tree, and they knew what that meant. And so, yes, the tree represents the knowledge of good and evil, but they still knew to obey God. So they're going to say something like that.
Okay, yeah, and I actually just let me just make sure I'm right here. I'll just go ahead and say it first. So, because then there's this distinction, because then you go, okay, they had the knowledge of good and evil. I mean, they didn't have it, but is evil, because we're equating evil to sin, right?
Yeah.
But is evil sin according to Christian theology? Because I'm pretty sure there's a verse in the Old Testament that it's talking about vows, making vows to God and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And it says a man should fulfill his vows regardless of what good or evil he pledges to do. So then we start thinking, why would God hold you to a vow that you make if it's an evil vow, if evil is equal to sin?
Yeah, you're bringing up some really deep points here. Who are you? Where have you been all my life? These are great questions.
Yeah, and then you start thinking, well, I mean, in the New Testament, I don't know any verses like specifically, but I think it's pretty clear, and there probably is somewhere in there that says no, like stay away from evil. Evil is sinful. So then it's like,
yeah. Well, when I was a Christian, and even if I try to role play as a Christian, I would say there's no real difference between evil and sin, that they're one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
But the point you brought up about the vows is a very good point, that it seems like obedience or promising to do or not do something is a little bit different than evil and good.
Yeah, because yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And I was like, maybe this guy has an answer. And it's honestly just, I think that's just like clear evidence that this is just written like from a bunch of different people with a bunch of different perspectives, with even some like pagan ancient influences where like evil wasn't, I don't know, like the two forces that are equal and stuff.
Now, the Calvinist answer is simple for this problem, and that is that God basically determined that they would do it. And
so why do I need to be told to do it?
So basically, this whole Genesis thing was a bit of a charade that God planned from the beginning of the universe that Adam and Eve would disobey, would take from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so sin could enter the world, so Jesus could come, so people could know who Jesus was and have a relationship with him. It was all part of the plan. So whether Adam and Eve actually had free will and really like free will in the strong sense and really even knew what they were doing, who cares? Like, that's not relevant here. What's relevant is God's plan came to pass.
I love when they do that. Oh, don't focus on that. Just think about this. That's completely not important. When it's like totally important. Like, do I have a choice or whatnot? You know, whatever.
But yeah, I seem to remember in my memory bank hearing some apologists talk about this, and they almost just kind of laughed it off. Like, yeah, isn't that weird? But they now, I could be wrong. If there's an apologist here who hears this on the replay and can address Juan's questions, and I'll steel man it back in a future episode. But these are great questions, and I think that there are tremendous plot holes within the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is. I mean, I didn't come to these realizations until after I stopped believing, because I allowed myself to look at the Bible like objectively, and I wish like somebody would have just like thrown this in my face from the very beginning, because that probably would have like saved me like a couple years of faith, you know, and all that stuff.
Well, if Frank Turk was here, he's just looking at you and he's thinking, "Hey, you're a pretty good looking guy. You just want to have coitus. Let's be honest, Juan. You look like a player. Are you a player, Juan?"
I mean,
look at that smile. Yeah, Frank's going, "Yeah, I got you figured out.
You just want to sin, and that's why you keep thinking about what's wrong with the Bible."
It's all about coitus.
Yeah, it's not because there's like 2 billion people on Earth and our laws are being made because of some ancient text. No, it's just because I want to engage in coitus.
Yeah.
Frank.
Frank. I know. Take care. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Well, Frank, is that you would have said that, right?
Hey, man! This makes sense!
Yeah, of course. That plot hole doesn't make sense, though. Well, I'm glad I didn't nap. We got a lot accomplished today. I have foreseen 7 new deconverts. So if you've listened to this live stream and you deconverted from Christianity, in all fairness, you need to contact Jonathan McClatchy on itsokaytodoubt.com, and he will bring you back into the faith. What I have undone, he will put back together. So Jonathan, I've just sent people your way. After you talk to people about the evidence for Christianity, you need to send them my way. So yes, there will be a Q&A at the end of the debate tomorrow. So if you want to be involved, you can. But again, I gave up $1,000 to do this on Nathan's channel, so you better shoot super chat Nathan. I don't get a cut. I'm doing this for the love and the dopamine. Yes, I saw your super chat. I posted it, didn't I? Screen share it. This for half African kids. No, maybe I didn't see that one. Did you do 2 of them? I saw you did one on Bertuzzi's channel and one on mine. The debate will be on DigitalGnosis' channel. DigitalGnosis. And if you're from Alabama, it's spelled Gnosis. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.